It says we're live.
Live.
So, hello, folks. Um, we're here to do another day of Shtick with Cool Frog. I have America shirts are the best.com.
They're first.
They're first.com.
America
Sorry
Shirts Are
about that.
First.com.
America shirts are first.com. So I even have a tab open and I still got that wrong. And it looks like YouTube hasn't quite caught up with this yet, so we'll wait a few seconds to see if this catches up with us before we go too far. Um, we're gonna go through some I don't know what we're gonna call it. We're gonna call it off name or whatever. Call it Pfizer, Pfizer. We're gonna go through some documents here, or whatever. We're gonna see if
It's
we can't
Pfizer.
right Pfizer. We're gonna see if we can't keep YouTube at bay with us for this, and it's still not connecting on the YouTube side through the studio. Which, if I go and I look at another stream or whatever, it actually probably show me that we're actually connected. So it's just disturbing.
Friggin' Susan.
Yeah. Oh, see, and it says that we're live. So let's click that one. Yep, there it is. It says that we're actually live with Susan. Isn't that fun?
You know, I had a horse named Susan and she was more beautiful.
So anyway, so let's pull up this first document here and we'll read through some of this. There's quite a few things that we're going to go through tonight, so hopefully it doesn't take too long. Let's go add that to stream.
Just a few.
And I am watching this, so okay, they're awesome. The YouTube side is working for us. Susan. So anyway, I found this quite interesting. This Davis Polk and Wardwell LLP out of California has filed these papers on behalf of Pfizer against Jinchao Li. When we look down here, it says her name is actually Sherry here in the States. It says conventional wisdom says that the cover-up is worse than the crime. Pfizer is not yet sure whether that is the case here, and thus comes this court for expedited relief on support and arbitration. What Pfizer can say is its soon-to-be former employee, Miss Lee, uploaded over 12,000 files, including scores of confidential Pfizer documents from her Pfizer-issued laptop to a personal Google Drive account and onto other personal devices. Now, I know what a personal Google Drive actually is. That's not private, really.
No.
Anybody can really access that if they knew how to get to her. I find that very interesting that can actually occur and actually happen, that she actually did that. And then it says that she also put it to other personal devices. So she had a couple USB sticks. She had a couple other hard drives. We can kind of speculate on what she actually had for personal devices and where she actually went to go send this. My thoughts is that she probably sent one to this other company that will come across eventually on this document. Are you able to see all this?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just want to be sure that everything's actually working.
Yeah, from what I
this
understood
is new for
from
me
it.
as well as it is for you. So
Yeah, it is. This is kind of new. But from what I understood from this was that the only thing that she did use was the Google Drive, if I'm not mistaken, though.
Yeah, when we
does
get
it
through
say?
it a little further, it does kind of say that it went to the Google Drive several different times, as opposed to it saying whatever other personal devices that she used. Upon learning that Miss Lee's troubling conduct, Pfizer addressed it with her. Although Miss Lee, we'll call her Miss Lee, initially gave the appearance of cooperation, it turns out Miss Lee instead had misled Pfizer about what she took, how she took it, when and why she did it, and where these files can be found today.
Wait. Who's this misled? We have Miss
Miss
Lee, who's no, I'm just
Miss Lee. Oh yeah, who's misled?
yeah.
Everybody else is misled, including Pfizer. So then, for over 150 years, Pfizer has been an industry leader in development of drugs and treatments of life-threatening diseases. Over 150 years they've been doing this.
Oh yeah,
That's
they've been around for a very long time,
kind
and
of
they have
interesting.
one of the longest rap sheets of lawsuits filed against them for their drug products. So, um, yeah, there's a little bit of background there.
Let's see down a little further. It says they secured their first emergency youth authorization in the United States for its vaccine in December 2020. Pfizer's work related with the and other debilitating diseases such as urethral carcinoma, Merkel cell carcinoma, and small cell lung cancer, to name a few. Just to name a few of them. I mean, obviously, there's
I'm sure they've never caused anything
12,000.
like that before.
Right, there's 12,000 files that are out there. So I mean, of all the things that she could have actually got her hands on, I'm sure she got her hands on a lot of different information for different things. So then in section 3 here, it actually goes on to actually say that she decided to leave Pfizer for a competitor believed to be Zencor. That's where I think a lot of these files probably directly went to, is to Zencor. I would almost assume that Zencor would really be interested in what these files really are and would want to become number 2, if not number 1. And if 12,000 files would give them lots of information.
Yeah.
Had Miss Lee left Pfizer honorably, she would not be named in this complaint. But she made a different choice. On her way out the door, she transferred into personal accounts and devices over 12,000 files, scores of which contain Pfizer confidential and trade secret information, and tried covering her tracks repeatedly. She went as far as to provide Pfizer security team a decoy laptop, leading them to believe that this was the one used to download the 12,000 files to her Google Drive account. Forensic analysis confirmed it is not, and Miss Lee or somebody else, including potentially 5 other people.
Doe's, yeah, like that says, yeah, because that's like Jane Doe, like John Doe or Jane Doe. It's just
Right.
Doe's.
Right. They're
Doe's.
right.
1 to 5.
Up 1 to 5. So I mean 1 to 5. I mean, why would they say 1 to 5? If it was 6, they would have said 1 to 6. My guess is
Probably.
there was 5 other people that actually had access to this computer that which contained those 12,000 files.
And also, they want to know, I mean, she went so far as to provide Pfizer security team with a decoy laptop, leading Pfizer to believe that it was the one used to download the 12,000 files from her Google Drive account. Oh, okay, I get it now. So they're wanting the laptop that she used, just to clarify, like it's
Right.
the laptop that she
they
used to
want her-
download
they
it. So
want their
she
laptop
downloaded
back.
it originally to her Google Drive account, and it was downloaded from there to a laptop.
Right.
And
And
so
they
they're wanting that
with
specific
no
device.
with their specific laptop. That was their laptop. She, there, she sent him a decoy laptop. She stole the laptop that had the files on it to go and actually download to her
Oh,
Google Drive. So
oh,
it
so I
wasn't
was
that
reading it
she
wrong.
just stole the 12,000 files. She stole the laptop to get the 12,000 files because the laptop had access to those 12,000 files. I'm guessing that the 12,000 files were on that specific laptop that she originally took. So um, it's very interesting when it comes down to what she actually did and how, why she's actually doing it. Um, in Section 5, it says Pfizer believes in robust, fair competition. You think so? I don't think they do. It's specifically that sort of competition that led Pfizer and its competitors to develop different vaccines in record breaking speed. And it's specifically that sort of competition that compels Pfizer and its competitors to push the boundaries to develop other blockbuster medications.
Which is why they work together with the government and the other company, Moderna, uh, to make a certain jab, because they just like competition, just just in certain ways, maybe like
Right.
created
Right.
competition anyway.
Like Johansson and them, like they had nothing to do with any of it, because
Right.
I'm sure they all want all this information that Pfizer actually has. You'd think all of them would anyway. So this other company it continues anybody with it'd be unjust to permit Miss Lee and anybody with whom she may be working in consort to trade in Pfizer's successes and experience, whether at Zencor or elsewhere, by leveraging with numerous confidential Pfizer documents she took without permission and refuses to return. So she's refusing to return the initial laptop. Why is she refusing to? She has the stuff downloaded to a Google account and other personal devices. You know dang well that she already sent something to Zencor as well as any other company that has anything to do with it. Um, so then they bring this action against her and the other five for A, misappropriation of trade secrets, B, breach of contract, C, conversion, and D, trespass to chattel. I I didn't look that one up. I don't really quite understand what trespass to chattel actually means. I'm not a lawyer.
Oh,
nor am I a doctor, so a lot of this information that's in here may be a little kind of confusing to both me and you because you're not a lawyer or a doctor either, correct?
no, I'm not.
Right. You're not a lawyer or doctor. I'm not a lawyer or doctor. We're not here to give you information on what you should actually do. We're just here to read this document and another document just to explain to you what is actually going on in this world. I've looked around and I didn't see anybody else actually come across this information and actually do a video on any of it. And that was kind of half the reason why I'm like, oh, there's something different that other people don't have that I can possibly, put out there first.
Yeah.
That was kind of the half of the reason for doing this or whatever. So then section 7, as part of its business, Pfizer is involved in researching, developing, making, and selling pharmaceutical products, including vaccines, which it distributes in California, throughout the United States, and around the world. So obviously, she's in California, in San Diego, California.
Yep.
She was hired in 2006 and currently serves as the Associate Director of Statistics in Pfizer's Global Product Development Group at the Pfizer facility in La Jolla, California. So specifically, she's actually in a specific community. Miss Lee informed Pfizer that she intends to resign effective November 24th, 2021. So, a good month ago or whatever, or just under a month, I suppose, she actually effectively resigned from her position. I mean, obviously, she's got this other position at Suncor that she's, going to work with or whatever.
Oh,
Section 9 kind of was a little weird, strange to me or whatever because it actually goes into the other five. Um, therefore sues them by fictitious names. So they don't want to release these people's names because they're not going to let them go. They're not going to fire these people. They're going to be like, we need to keep you around so that you don't keep on spreading, our information. That's my thought on it anyway.
that's probably right.
Again, we're not doctors, we're not lawyers. We're not telling you what to do. We're just reading documents. Go and make sure you see your own doctor and make sure that you actually do what what you feel is right for you and your family, not what we're telling you to do. Not telling you to do anything. This court is a personal jurisdiction over Miss Lee because she is a resident of the state of California. Miss Lee has also been continuous and systematic contacts with the state of California by and through her employment with Pfizer at its facility in California. Upon information and belief, a substantial part of the actions causing Pfizer's injuries in giving rise to Pfizer's claims occurred. Injuries in giving rise to Pfizer's claims. What kind of injuries are they talking about? I would almost. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could possibly be occurring. This is in section 11. I don't know if you reading off of what screen, if you have your own PDF up.
Yeah, this court is personal jurisdiction. State of California. Yep.
Obviously, I kind of skipped over some of the
right
wording in there or whatever to kind of move along a little bit quicker. Because this is a 25-page document. We're not going to read the whole thing because we also have another 36-page document that we're not going to read the whole thing on. Because we had some other information in that one that's kind of relatable, which was the reason that we were going to do the combination of the show. It's not really relatable, but at the same time it is because it has something to do with Pfizer.
Yeah, that it does. A lot to do with them.
And that was the reason that we're doing the show the way we're doing it or whatever. So, in section 12, this says venue is proper in this court because Miss Lee is subject to the personal jurisdictions of this court, and because a substantial part of the events giving rise to Pfizer's claims and causing Pfizer's injuries occurred at Pfizer's facility within the judicial district. Further, based on information and belief, Miss Lee resides within the judicial district. I really hate their terms and the wording on that. So their injuries in that they're claiming, Pfizer's claiming to have, is the stolen documents. It's going to injure their business. Those are the injuries that they're talking about.
Right. There wasn't a brawl.
Right. There wasn't a fight. There wasn't like they're saying, oh, you got injured from.
There wasn't a shootout.
Taking something or using something that they actually were producing. They're talking about injuries to them personally.
Yeah, not physical injury. She's not the one that made the CEO of Pfizer's face look all weird and like contorted sideways or something.
Right.
That wasn't her. Unfortunately,
that person already looked like that. Right?
yes, they were just it's just that way, Something in the water hole. I don't know.
So then it kind of moves on to factual allegations. A lot of this gets very repetitive reading when you start going through it or whatever. So due to sheer number of documents, Miss Lee misappropriated Pfizer as yet to understand the full scope and trade secrets and confidential information in her possession. While Miss Lee possesses thousands of documents potentially related to numerous Pfizer vaccines, drugs, and other innovations. Other innovations, huh? This complaint focuses on Pfizer's vaccine, and it's this one here. And it's I see. I can't read. I can't. I'm not a
Avalon,
doctor. Avalon and Elranatab,
Elranatab, Elranatab, and then monoclonal antibodies.
Tamab.
So that's
So
the name of the monoclonal.
Elranatamab, monoclonal antibodies. So these ones, when you actually kind of look them up to see what they actually do, they're actually pertaining to the cancer that was actually kind of brought up in the first section or whatever, and actually trying to reduce lung cancers. So,
Ooh.
yeah, kind of an interesting. Why would they actually be bringing up lung cancers and stuff like that that come along with these use of these drugs, and then bring up this the coof at the same time?
Well, they have their hands in a little bit of everything, but
Yeah, a little bit of everything, but then they're actually adding it together or whatever, and pointing out these specifics, even though that there's so many thousands of documents that cover so many other things. These are the points that they're actually pushing out. So
yeah,
it
they're the
kind of
ones that they're
makes you
concerned about.
right. These are the ones that they're more concerned about. These are the ones that are affecting your lungs and your respiratory system.
Probably the ones that they'll make the most money off of.
Right, the ones that they're actually working with most right now. Now, I just seen that they actually put out a pill. Did you see that?
Oh,
Did you see the pill that they just put out without saying what it actually is?
Pfizer put out one?
Yeah, but Pfizer put out a pill to help with the coof. I believe it was Pfizer that put it out. We won't say the name on it because it's that one that starts with an I.
Oh, okay, there it is. It
Yeah,
says they're trying to do a pill and stuff. I heard that there was another company that started with an M and ends with a K that put out one, and it's a pill and it's red in color. I heard that
sure. And then it
a
still
while
has
back.
that medicine that starts with an I in it, right? Did you
Yeah.
see that?
Oh, you mean the horse paste? Yeah.
Yeah, horse
Very,
paste.
very
That one.
similar to
That
horse
one.
paste and livestock dewormer.
Or yeah, some kind of dewormer of sorts. Whatever. Not for human use.
Yes, of course, not at all for human consumption. That never won a Nobel Prize. That never happened. It's just livestock dewormer. But and anyway, yes, yes, I see what you're saying about
So
it
then,
now. I just
before we
looked it
move
up.
on, if you like what you hear, you like what you're seeing, go ahead, hit that subscription button, share my stuff out, and let everybody else know what's going on. Make sure you hit the like button so that actually Susan actually sees that you actually pushed a button on my side. So then, where were we now? Section 14. As the coof pandemic spread globally, Pfizer decided that it had a moral and scientific imperative to develop and bring to the public a vaccine as quickly as possible. In March 2020, Pfizer signed a letter of intent and partner with BioNTech to co-develop an mRNA-based vaccine. Huh, isn't that some strange stuff? The collaboration leverages Pfizer's expertise in vaccine research and development, regulatory capabilities, and global manufacturing and distribution network. This video will actually be re-uploaded to Odyssey once we're done here.
Yeah, yeah. Just in
That,
case any
just
shenanigans.
in case Susan doesn't like anything that we have to say, I made sure that I had that side running or whatever in work, and I do have our my first episode that I had created 9 days ago. I pushed that up there, whatever, a good 4 days ago. I wanted to say 4 or 5 days ago, just so it was somewhere else as well. Just because I don't know how happy Susan's going to be with anything that we have to say.
Yeah. By
Right?
the way, this statement in section 14 is actually factually incorrect as far as the timeline of the jabs are concerned. Because these jabs, these particular types of jabs, have been in development since 2015. And actually, if you really look at it, it's probably before that. But
No, yeah,
so
absolutely,
it's not just like
absolutely.
these
It's
things
just what they're
just
trying to.
appeared
Right,
out
there's
of the
like, oh
blue.
yeah, March 17th we decided to do this. No, it wasn't March 17th that they decided to do this. It was that March 17th they finally had something, and that's where like, wow, let's just use that date.
Yeah, they mass manufactured and brought it to the public.
So then today,
Jabs.
Pfizer has invested over $2 billion of its own capital to develop this vaccine, and has dedicated hundreds of Pfizer scientists, strategists, and other personnel to the coup. By risking its own investment rather than relying on governmental funds, Pfizer can be
Oh wow.
more nimble in the development of the vaccine. Really? Do you think so? Do you think they didn't use any government funds? They
Yeah.
just
How
they just
about no?
decided to dump $2 billion of their own.
I mean, they may have dumped some of their own money, but
I'm sure they did. They had. I
it's
mean,
I mean,
most
it's not like
companies
they
do,
didn't take money from the federal government.
but right, every company that had anything to do with this particular jab, not all of them just went and threw $2 billion at it. And you're
Yeah,
like,
no,
yeah, let's
they
do
all had
this.
deals with the government,
Right, the
and then
government
the guy.
has a
I mean, that's
lot to
how that
do
they
with a
can
lot
provide these jabs to people for
for
free,
free.
is
For
because
free.
your
For
tax
free.
dollars.
Right, for free. I mean, that's the one that boggles my mind the most is the free part of it.
Right, right.
For all the things that are out there, like insulin, they charge so much money to save lives that they're giving this one away for free to make you super healthy.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
turn into Superman on everybody.
We're going to move on here. So then, section 16, the speed at which Pfizer was able to develop and gain approval of its vaccine was not due only to pandemic related efforts and spending. Rather, Pfizer had recently reorganized its research and development arm into biotech like subdomains, allowing for better start to finish ownership on new products like the vaccine. Moreover, Pfizer leveraged its prior breakthrough innovations into the antiviral space to create the vaccine in record time.
Now, why do they have to go over this information? What does this have to do with this complaint and this filing against the woman? If the only thing that she's doing is potentially going to give information to a different rival company, why do they have to sit there and tell everybody their entire story of like, oh, we're, you know, this jab is like the most noble and honest of all quests, and we are going to. I mean, like, why do you have to make yourself sound all fantastical in something that just has to deal with a woman taking information, giving it to another company? Why do you have to make yourself sound all decent and good and justified about all
Right,
these things
right.
inside of this kind of a
That's what I
thing?
was thinking. Why are they
They're like going
justifying
down the whole
themselves in
story
this
too. It's like,
document? What's this
right,
document really have to do with them justifying themselves?
exactly. Why do you have to
They're
just
just
like,
trying to bring
you
this
know,
lady up on charges of stealing their stuff,
exactly? If that's all that this is about, why are you bringing this up?
as well as maybe potentially 5 other nameless people.
Yeah, correct. Because my opinion is that either she has already whistleblowed to somebody and somebody knows about that, or that's the potential that they're concerned about, is that she will release this to other people that may get some of this out, that maybe certain jabs might not be all that, and of course the background behind certain jabs might not be all that it's cracked up to be. So, oh no, we're really, I mean, this is really a fantastical quest, a noble deed, and we never take any money from the government. I mean, we invested $2 billion. Well, I'm sure you probably invested something, or was it 2 billion or 2 trillion? I forget.
It's,
2 billion.
it was a large number either way. Yeah, it was 2 billion. I want to say it was.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like, I mean, why do you have to sit there and justify all of that if this is just simply about this woman taking this? Unless you're again trying to do a CYA, right?
Right. So then, to go along
In
with
case
what you're
that information would
to go
happen to
along
get
with
out.
what you're saying is in Section 17. It says beginning in March 2020, Pfizer conducted numerous clinical trials and made various regulatory submissions in collaboration with BioNTech in an effort to obtain emergency use authorization for the vaccine from the Food and Drug Administration. The FDA so authorized that those companies could create this vaccine on or about December 11th, 2020. Well, wait a minute here. Didn't they just say that they couldn't do anything? They didn't start doing anything until March? Oh, okay. But now it's December 11th, 2020. I mean, I remember actually getting sick in November. I'm out of Minnesota. I was working out of the Mall of America at the time. So then I got sick. I worked through my sickness for 2 weeks, struggling to breathe. I haven't gotten sick since. I wonder what that was. Right.
Yeah.
So then, right. So it's all very interesting when it comes down to it. So,
Yeah, the timeline of events is kind of
right, their timeline is really kind of off just a touch. 5-6 years. I don't know. The FDA has since fully approved the vaccine for individuals 16 and older and has extended emergency use authorization for children as young as 5. Needless to say, but you're going to say it anyway.
needles to say that. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
I was reading that wrong again. Sorry.
Pfizer's vaccine has been a huge medical and commercial success. And has it? I have to question.
Oh, it's been a big monetary success
I
for
have to
them. Holy
question the
crap.
success on that. Right. Success for them.
Yeah. So much so they want another.
Right. And another. Oh, let's do another. What? There's
Fourth time's a charm.
4 or 5. There was a reason that initial. I mean, that initial card. I've seen pictures of it. I don't have one myself because I'm not going to have one. It actually has like 4 lines on it to begin with. Why did it have 4 lines to begin with?
Yeah,
really?
and then the rest of the entire. Are you talking about the information that they give with it?
Yeah, the little information card that you get after you get that jab. That information card had 4 lines on it. Why did it have 4 lines? They expected to have 4 lines on it. That's the one. When you start putting things together, you really start thinking about it. And you're like, huh, isn't that interesting?
Indeed.
Right. So then, Section 18, the vaccine has rightfully garnered significant praise and recognition around the world, but it should not overshadow the important work that Pfizer does in other fields. For example, they're a world leader in research and development of monoclonal antibodies that combat rare and debilitating diseases. Huh. Isn't that something? Monoclonal antibodies. Have you ever heard of monoclonal antibodies from anybody before?
Oh no, never.
No?
No,
Okay.
I've only heard of jabs. Those are the only forms of healthcare that
No,
exist.
but that's right. That's the only protection against this disease is to actually just get the jab. Again, we're not doctors, we're not lawyers. Don't go off of what we say. Listen to your doctor and do what you're supposed to do. Once an antibody attaches to an I'm sorry, I moved on in there. Section 19 in general, the body's immune system attacks foreign substances by generating a large number of antibodies. Oh, really? Do we?
And I love how they go into detail about this too. It's
Which
kind of
are
like,
right,
huh?
which are proteins that bind to certain targets in the body, such as antigens that cause infections. Really? You don't say. Once an antibody attaches to an antigen, it triggers the body's immune system to target and destroy cells containing that antigen. A monoclonal antibody is an antibody made in the laboratory that is designed to bind to specific antigens, such as an antigen in the surface of a particular cancer cell. Once the monoclonal antibody binds to the cancer cell, the body begins targeting and destroying cells like it. Monoclonal antibodies may also be designed to target immune system cells to increase their activity against cancer cells.
Oh, so this is
Just
about their anti-cancer
right,
research thing.
right,
Okay.
right. The other stuff that goes along with those files that they're actually complaining about in this document, which I mean, it's kind of strange, whatever that it works one way for one thing, but not the other. One of the greatest challenges with respect to developing monoclonal antibodies is identifying the right antigen to target. It takes years of research and development, trial and error work, and hundreds of millions of dollars in investment and capital to investigate a potential new monoclonal antibody. But to come up with a jab for everybody, it took them no time at all.
Oh yeah, it was just like lightning. You know.
It was super fast.
I mean, as
It,
soon as
it
Trump
wasn't it wasn't the
beat
five
his
six
eyes.
years. Right. It wasn't the 5 6 years. It was once Trump actually went and started his um, Operation Warp Speed. I used that one a couple times on some Twitter comments or whatever. There's just so many people that think that this miraculously started to happen once um, Joe Biden took office.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, it's all Joe Biden. Joe Biden's the best. He's the one that come up with this. He's the one that did.
Because
He
the
did
companies
not.
waited until he was in office. Their approved candidate, and
Right.
then and then they said, "Oh yes, now it's official, ladies and gentlemen." Like, oh okay, well thank you.
Kind of makes me
You know.
wonder who I all had something to do with this, Bart Soros. No, probably not him. I'm
Well,
just kind
all
of
the major corporations
I'm just kind of
gave
throwing some
Joe
names
Biden
around, right? And just
money.
like the one that's at the top of my head.
Right, right. I mean, like all the major corporations gave Biden like all kinds of money to run for president. I mean, like they
Oh
had a
yeah,
meeting with like
everybody.
Wall Street executives and everything else, and I mean, that's how Biden got the money to friggin' run, and they did all that, and he's up and he's running and doing all this stuff. I mean, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think most people probably know that story, but anywho's, but that's
Right. When you start thinking about it all, you're just like, oh really? How does this freaking work? It's just strange and interesting all at the same time. In 2014, Pfizer entered an agreement with Merck.
that is the name of the company that had the red pill, not the red pill
Oh,
most people talk about,
sure,
but
sure.
another red pill that
Right.
that's
So,
the
so
Merck.
they entered into an agreement with them to co-develop the first Avlamab, a groundbreaking monoclonal antibody now sold under the trade name Bavencio. I mean, let's just change the name on it because, it's so hard to read the first one. It's easier to read the second one, right?
Oh yeah.
So then this is that drug is FDA approved to treat specific types of cancer in the bladder and urinary tract called urothelial carcinoma. So, okay, that one takes care of the bladder and the urinary tract. It takes care of cancer cells.
I like though that as they're well, I don't necessarily like it, I just find it interesting how with this they're just kind of going over a statement of facts, but with the jab, they're trying to make themselves sound virtuous.
So then,
It's what it seemed like to me
so
anyway,
then
like
down
whenever
a
they were
little
going over it.
further, it actually says it actually helps with a rare and aggressive form of skin cancer called Merkel cell carcinoma. Huh. That's kind of a strange name that they gave that. Had nothing to do with the company that was working with it, was it? Pfizer is currently researching whether that drug could treat other forms of cancer and whether that drug could be effectively combined with other drugs. Um, they invested over millions of dollars in research and development for that drug, and as a direct result, have saved countless lives. Good for them.
Well, I mean, that's their claim. I mean, this whole document is their claim.
Right, exactly.
mean,
This is a claim off.
This is from their perspective.
Right, and right. Pfizer's lawyers drew this up. So Pfizer, I'm sure they have had lawyers working with them for the 150 years that they've been around. Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's probably the same ones. No, I'm just kidding. That's how their drugs work so well, is that they just keep giving them to their lawyers. They just keep lasting. It's like, man, those jabs, they work really well. I mean, everything we do works fantastic. I mean, look at our lawyers. Been here for like over 150 years. How old's this guy? 230? I mean, like, come on, people.
So then the next one actually goes into the other drug, that elranatamab, and it says is bispecific monoclonal antibodies are antibodies that can simultaneously bind to two different types of antigens and two different target sites of the same antigen. They believe that drug could be effective in treating multiple myeloma, a rare blood cancer that affects plasma cells made in bone marrow. So they're trying to cure bone cancer. Which obviously, if you're a company that's creating drugs and, chemicals to put into people's bodies or whatever, you're going to try creating something to cure almost anything and everything. Why wouldn't you? That's what they're there for. Just using their own money, though. This is again down here under that same section 22 or whatever, down towards the bottom of it. It says, to date, they have invested millions of dollars in research and development in hopes it will prove to be the company's next blockbuster drug.
Blockbuster. What nice wording there. It's like, that sounds really scientific or
so then
medical.
It goes into her employment. And once it goes into her employment, I mean, it's an interesting read, but at the same time, it really kind of breaks down everything that she personally had been working on. So she had access to highly confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information. They use that sentence over and over and over. I tried reading this one by myself without anybody around, and I actually read everything word for word. By the time I said trade secret information related to numerous vaccines, or the access to highly confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information, by the time I read that 15 times, I'm like, I can't read this thing anymore. I just can't. It's just they keep on saying it over and over again because she has access to highly confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information. So it's like 12,000 pages of it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna skip down a little further here. Um, just before section 27, it says their protection of its confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information. And they say it again, and then they say it again. So then they finally, I think it's in 28, they said, well, Pfizer's confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information gives Pfizer a substantial competitive advantage over its existing and would-be competitors, including Zencor, which is the company that she's probably already working for. Due to significant investment in time, money, and resources in developing the drug and vaccine programs, the drug and vaccines themselves, as well as the overall business strategy of the business plans for such programs, drugs, and vaccines, these advantages provide significant value to Pfizer over its competitors, such as Zencor. Zencor going to put out a purple pill?
Oh, who
Because
knows?
I'm sure they have the information. There's no way that they didn't get the information already. Is this lady went and she put it to a Google Drive as well as multiple? And it goes into it again down in the bottom of 30 there. It says such as Google Drive. Additionally, in 2019, disable the USB access to all company laptops to prevent unauthorized transfer of the files to external hard drives.
What the frick did they do? Did they backfill all
Well,
of those USB ports
anybody
with
that knows
like
anything about a
plaster or something?
computer, it's not that hard to turn that USB drive back on or the access to the port.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of it's kind of what I mean. Is like, I mean, what do they do? They just stuff a cotton ball in there and go now. Don't like what?
Be like, I turned that off. No, don't turn it back on. Section 33, it says, as part of their tracking of employee activity and company devices, Pfizer's security team discovered on October 29th, 2021, that between Saturday, October 23rd, and Tuesday, October 26th, Miss Lee transferred over 12,000 files. Well, wait a minute here. They didn't start doing anything until March. What's going on in October? Oh,
October
this is
is
October
when they were
2021. So I mean, okay, so this is months later.
right.
So in October, she finally decided to actually do this. So why would she? What happened between the 23rd and the 26th of October that made her decide to do this?
I don't know.
Was
I
that
mean,
the first spike?
the first spike in
Because they're like 15 days to flatten, and then they're 6 months out, just before winter.
oh no, that's this year though. She did that
It
just
is
this
this
past
year.
October.
Oh my lord! So it would have been the third spike.
And this is also
Right, see,
around the time that
because
they're
their
wanting the
dates are off. They're
authorization
screwing
for.
with my dates in my head.
Yeah. But this is
So,
also the time when they wanted the authorization for kids 5 years and older, I believe is what it was. 5 years and older.
sure. Yep. The 5 years and 5 to what 13, 16, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Miss Lee was out of office on October 25th and 26th, but unbeknownst to Pfizer, she was conducting mass transfer of files from her laptop to her Google Drive account during that time. But I thought they didn't have the initial laptop. How do they know this? They
Well,
immediately initiated Right. I mean, right when you go, oh wow. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if she was at work with a laptop and on their network, the system administrator would be able to see when she was actually on and what she was actually doing. So, did she not take the laptop? Or are they just saying that she took the laptop? Because remember, they said that she gave him a dummy laptop that wasn't. This whole document's kind of strange when you start reading through it or whatever. You're like, oh, wait a minute here. An investigation into Miss Lee's Pfizer email account revealed that she had been interviewing with and had received an offer for employment with Zencor. So, I mean, she had already been offered the position, which is the reason that she took the information. She had something to do with the information. She wanted to take it with her.
Yeah. Also, if they have access to her email, they probably have access to her Google Drive. Because if you're using Google Drive and an email in like the same context, it's probably the same Google account. So if they have access to her Google account, they have access to the Google Drive. So, but again, the concern is the external.
So in Section 34, they really get into what they actually did to her to try stopping her. So then Pfizer Human Resources Security and Digital Forensic personnel spoke with Miss Lee twice on Friday the 29th of October 2021. During the first conversation, which occurred over the telephone, Human Resources and Security personnel, Miss Lee admitted to having transferred the files and claimed that she did so because she wanted to organize her files offline and have them for her own personal use. Ms. Lee represented that she had transferred the files from the Google Drive to an external hard drive using her personal laptop and had not copied the files elsewhere. It's a Google Drive. A couple hours later, Pfizer digital forensic personnel had a second conversation with Lee via video conference. Between the two conversations, Miss Lee logged into her Google Drive account and deleted all the files saved there. During the second conversation, after Miss Lee disclosed that she had deleted all the files on her Google Drive account, Pfizer personnel had asked Miss Lee to come to Pfizer's office on Monday, November 1, and turn over her external hard drive and personal laptop for inspection. Miss Lee expressed reluctance to provide her personal laptop, explaining that it contained personal information, but ultimately agreed to do so. Later that night, Pfizer personnel subsequently deactivated Miss Lee's system access, her laptop, and her badge. So she no longer has access to anything because they're like, nah, she already has too much. On November 1, Miss Lee came into Pfizer's office to return her Pfizer-issued laptop. Miss Lee also provided a personal laptop that she led Pfizer to believe was the one that she had used to download the documents from her Google Drive account onto her external hard drive, as well as the external hard drive itself. Pending completion of Pfizer's forensic analysis on the devices, Pfizer placed Miss Lee on paid administrative leave. So she's still getting paid. The forensic examination of Miss Lee's devices revealed that Miss Lee had not been truthful with Pfizer. Specifically, the forensic examination showed that Miss Lee downloaded the 12,000 files to a folder having a path name of CLI/downloads. This is the downloads folder associated with the user having a user profile CLI. Gee, I wonder what that stands for. Oh, that's her name. Which coincides with Miss Lee's first initial and last name. No such
Congratulations.
Yeah, right. No such user profile and folder exists in Miss Lee's issued laptop. The personal laptop also provided to Pfizer or the external hard drive. In the opinion of the experienced forensic analysis who conducted the analysis, the most likely explanation for the discrepancy is that Miss Lee provided Pfizer with a personal laptop other than the one that she used to download the 12,000 files. So there's another laptop. The forensics analysis also revealed that the laptop Miss Lee had provided was hardly used during the week of the 25th, when the downloads occur, corroborating with that she most likely used a different laptop to initiate the downloads. This conduct cast doubt on Miss Lee's truthfulness, but far more troubling for Pfizer, indicates that another unknown laptop likely contains the 12,000 files she downloaded, which includes scores of confidential documents such as the examples discussed below. Well, those are also the same ones that were discussed above. So, I mean, they really get into it or whatever. She turned the hard drive over to Pfizer on Monday the 1st without mentioning anything about these deleted files. So, I mean, she still has these 12,000 files.
And again, this is from their perspective as well. So it, you know, their forensic people.
Right. This is their forensic people saying this is what we actually think is happening or whatever. She may actually still have a copy of them, but I'm sure she gave the 12,000 files to Zuncor or whatever so that they could actually make and do things as well. I'm sure she got paid a good penny for that. Because no company's just going to be like, oh, well, we're just, we'll leave it alone. We're not going to touch any of that stuff. Especially when it contains information about drugs that can cure, several different forms of cancer.
Supposedly.
Right. Supposedly, right. All of this is just a supposed. We're not. We're just speculating.
Exactly.
Honestly,
guessing. It all is. It all is just.
Right, we're just guessing what they actually are putting on paper. What because it's all doctored information. There's no way that they didn't talk to their lawyers several times to get this drafted correctly. Read it over themselves several times, like you do when you have a lawyer.
Yeah, and again, this is all from their perspective. This is not definitive. This is all the facts of the case. This is what they perceive to be the facts of the case against Miss Lee. So ultimately, until you get both sides or until there's a trial, excuse me, you won't know everything fully and truthfully and objectively. And that's kind of the thing that I remember when people were wanting to accuse people in Trump world of stuff during Trump's presidency. And, oh my golly, the news would come out and they'd be like, this person filed against someone in Trump world and they said a bunch of bad things. And oh my gosh. And they ran with it like it was a matter of fact. And it's like, but wait, no, it's not. Because after they had either like went to court or like there was some sort of investigation and so forth and so on, later on, all these things were proven to be untrue. So ultimately, this all is just, their perspective on it that they have observed. It doesn't mean it's not true, but it also doesn't mean that it is true. We're just taking this.
So there's 4
just
bullet
page
points
by page is what they're saying.
Sure. There's 4 bullet points that come in below the highly sensitive information. When you actually read the 4 bullet points, one's from September 24th, 2021. One's from February 21st, 2021. One's from July 6th, 2021. And one's from February 20th, 2019. All about the same stuff that we've been talking about already. There's nothing in these 4 bullet points that we haven't already kind of hit on or read through. They really try covering their basis several times as they're going through this document, trying to actually make sure that they can actually bring her to court.
Right.
And he mentions again, Pfizer did not authorize Miss Lee to transfer the aforementioned files to her personal Google Drive account, and not aware of any legitimate business purposes for these transfers, which breached the obligation under her confidentiality agreement. So, I mean, that's basically the big issue right now is she broke her confidentiality agreement. And they're pissed off because she took 12,000 files. They don't know where the 12,000 files have all been shared to, um, if they're still out there, if she still has access to 12,000 files. I mean, she says she doesn't, but again, it's all speculation on all sides of that, because there's no way in my mind that she doesn't still have access to these, because why would she do it otherwise?
Well, yeah, if she's actually doing everything they're alleging, yeah, she probably still would have it.
The next section or whatever, it says Miss Lee tries to resign and declines an exit interview, giving rise to this lawsuit. So, because she didn't do an exit interview, they're like, all right, fine, you're going to be named. They didn't name the other 5 because most likely they gave an exit interview because they're like, well, we need to know that we can get a job somewhere. She has a job. She didn't care. She's like, I work for Zencor. I have a job. Screw you. I don't need to talk to you anymore. Exit interviews suck. I've worked at several different places or whatever, and trying to do an exit interview because they want to know some stupid information or whatever, and it's like, I don't have any information. She could have actually gone to the exit interview and just sat there and said absolutely nothing, and this may not have actually occurred. May not. Again, all speculation on all sides. And again, folks, we're not doctors, we're not lawyers. We're just trying to read and through this information and let you know what's actually going on, as well as anybody, because I'm sure somebody's going to come across this and actually be like, whoa.
I mean,
Look
sometimes he tries to pretend that he's a lawyer, but it doesn't always. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't pretend to be a lawyer. I can read very well. And I have a brain that I actually use to think with.
Show off.
I know there's an awful lot of people out in this world right now that just don't use it, don't want to use it, and just be like, no, do what we're told. I'm not one that actually does what I'm told. I've never been one to do what I was told, ever. Seriously, ever. It's just my attitude and the way I am. I really don't care what other people have to say. If they're going to give me correct information and I can actually see that that information is correct, and I can go somewhere else and I can read it and I can hear it from somebody else as well, then and only then will I be like, oh, that's kind of interesting information. Good to know. If I only hear it once, I'm just like, very, very skeptical, especially when it comes to mainstream, because they're just going to explode and exploit whatever they want to do.
Oh yeah.
So then you really don't have to read through these next sections or whatever, because again, it was just her exit interview. So they're going to go and they're going to hit on everything that they hit on. Again, I've read this several times, and that's why I'm like, I know I can skip that because it's not really important information. I'm sure there's maybe something in some of it or whatever where I'm just like, maybe I should have read that line or whatever. But I mean, they repeat themselves several times through this.
They do. They do. They want you to be very clear that she broke her confidentiality agreement and trade secrets.
Right.
All the
Those
whole 9 yards.
confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information. Like each paragraph has that sentence in there somewhere. And it keeps on bringing up Zencor, another company that deals with this kind of stuff. As you can see, I'm scrolling each page and I'm stopping for a few seconds. That way, if somebody is actually out there wanting to actually read it or whatever, doesn't have access, doesn't know how to get access to it, they can pause what we're doing or whatever, and they can go and they can read everything.
Oh, I don't know. Can you put a link somewhere?
I suppose I could probably link it somewhere. Again, I'm new at all this, so I really don't know. I don't want to link my own C drive to. I suppose if there's a. I got this off of Bloomberg.
Yeah.
I went and I downloaded the file to my own C drive.
Yeah, I wonder, can I do that? Oh, wait, well, no, can I do that?
I did make you a
Anyway.
mod. You are my one and only mod that I currently
that's
have.
right. So I guess I can.
If you have ways of actually bringing up that Bloomberg article that actually has this in there, or another way of doing it, whatever, you can totally tag that in there, right into chat, whatever, so that way everybody can see it.
There's the thing I copy and paste. Oh, it's not a link. How do I link it?
And that's why I said I don't know how to actually link it. Otherwise, if I had been on their website, and the Bloomberg website that actually got this off of,
Well, anywho's,
yeah.
I tried.
No, it's fine.
I'm still new to this, by the way.
And we're both very, very new to this. If you're interested, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button. You can see my name's Cool Frog. For your listeners, that's KOOLFROGG. You can find me everywhere.
Frog.
It's Cool Frog. If you want to find me, I'm serious. I'm almost everywhere. I'm thinking, depending on what time it is once we get done here, I was kind of thinking of winding down with a game. Probably go and play some more Banished or whatever. It's a good, calm game that you can just sit there and talk through or whatever without having to pay attention to the screen so much. Again, I was kind of scrolling through it so that way if somebody was actually watching, they can go and they can pause, stop the show or whatever, go read it real quick off the screen, start it up again, move on. Again, there's so much information that this continuously repeat over and over and over.
Yes, they do in different ways.
Right, and like four or five different ways of saying it or whatever, and it's like, just move on.
After the fourth case of action, we get to the prayer for relief.
Right. It's that line 82. Miss Lee has received salary, benefits, and expenses in which she was not entitled to by virtue of her unlawful conduct described herein. You know, I mean.
Yeah, that was the thing, because I guess I forgot the dates. I was talking to him off stream, well, before we came on, and
right.
It sounded like that they just wanted her salary, just all of her salary. And I'm thinking, well, you're not entitled to all of her salary. Because what it sounded like to me was, and I guess I just forgot the dates when I was talking about it, was that she downloaded it and then she left, and I kind of thought how many months went by that they were still paying her, but apparently they were paying her still. It was paid leave. So
Right. It was paid leave. Right. Exactly.
so
So,
unless they're asking just for that back.
right, and if she's still being paid, um,
Well,
after
I
after they
wouldn't.
do go to court, they can actually go back and they can stop and say, okay, cut off her pay from this time, and anything that they had paid out, they can actually ask her to give back.
But they don't actually tell you. It says, Miss Lee has received salary, benefits, and expenses to which she is not entitled by virtue of her unlawful conduct described herein. I mean, but what time does this salary start and stop? I mean,
No, right. She'll get paid until she
it
goes to
doesn't
court.
actually describe it. So I
It
guess
doesn't. It
maybe I was
doesn't
right
put it out. It
initially.
doesn't put it out there. But usually, you get paid until you go to court, until after everything's all done and said, because they can find out that she didn't actually do something while she's in court, and then maybe give her job back or whatever, and then she won't have to pay it back. Which the way it's sounding, she has another job, and she'll probably have to pay it all back. Award Pfizer's reasonable attorney's fees, costs, expert fees, expenses, and all other sums expended in connection with the prosecution of this action. So there's a lot to it, and then that was the end of it. So I mean, we can read the whole prayer and relief if we really want to. I just kind of hit the one that was kind of
Oh,
the main part. Is that basically she's anything that's the court costs, any other fees for the um, whatever for the company that actually for their own company probably that they did all the forensic stuff on it to actually find out what was going on, any kind of stuff that it costs and expenses that are accrued, she has to pay back if she's found guilty on this.
yeah,
But
and
this
it
is
says they.
this we all that we've seen the date whatever just there's November 23rd 2021 respectively submitted. So I mean the document's not even 3 weeks old.
Yeah, and it says it directs Mrs. Lee to provide Pfizer Pfizer's possessive outside counsel attorney's eyes only access to her personal Google Drive account, any and all computing devices in her possession, custody, and control, and to any other account or device in which she may have stored Pfizer's confidential information or trade secrets, as well as to return any hard copy of documents containing Pfizer's confidential information or trade secrets. So they're wanting pretty much like all of her
Right.
electronic devices that could
She
possibly have
they
any
want
form of download.
everything. They want everything back, and they don't want this information out to anybody. There's no way. It's been 3 weeks that this information hasn't been transferred yet another dozen times to another dozen devices that weren't her own. Especially when there's not just her that's being listed, but 5 other nameless people. Or 125.
All the does.
So I mean, there's so many people that have access to this information. You just be like, wow, this information has to be totally out there.
Yeah, at least with the other company, if she's, if everything that they're saying is true and like, she was going along with them and working with them to get it out. If I'm not mistaken, though, she's mentioned somewhere as being like some form of a whistleblower. Or am I thinking of the
Well,
individual that Barnes is representing?
that's probably what they're calling her as a whistleblower, because she actually stole this information and she's going to give it to somebody.
Because
Which
Robert Barnes is representing a woman who left Pfizer in she had all kinds of information and things. Now,
You think it's
I'm
this
not.
lady?
See, that's the question. He hasn't revealed her name at all, and that's my thing. Is like, is this the same woman? And I've been thinking
But
about that
he has to
ever
keep
since.
that. He has to keep that to himself. He can't actually
Right,
go. He
right.
can't hold. He can't talk to us. He can't tell us that it was actually this lady yet. I'm sure.
Exactly. He has
I'm
to keep
sure.
her name under
I'm.
wraps
I'm sure.
because, my golly.
I'm interested once all this is done and over with. If I can't get an interview with, or if we can't get an interview with Mr. Robert Barnes and actually talk to him about this lady and this document that we come across, that'd
Oh
be kind
wow,
of interesting fun.
that'd be very interesting.
Right? So I'm going to take this screen down for a moment. So it's just you and me. And make sure that I'm at the top of this other one so that we don't start halfway through it. I'm not going to show them the table of contents. The list of abbreviations is not necessary, I doubt. Or do
Oh,
we
that's
need?
the fun part. No, I'm just kidding.
Do we need to give everybody the list of abbreviations?
Oh, I know that. I kind of know the list of abbreviations. I can scroll back up to it myself and just kind of reference it. PT is what they use a lot, and that it's capital P and capital T in this document, and that just means
The
preferred term. So
Sure.
anyway,
Do we need to start right this? Now, this document I didn't really actually read through so much. The other one I read through several times. This one I scrolled through it. I didn't really hit it so hard. This one you have the information on. This is the document that you sent me,
yeah.
and I found it interesting and said, "Hey, we should do this show together because I have information off of Pfizer, and you have information off of Pfizer." And we can maybe kind of make a show and we can actually do something together. So did you want to start at the top, go off of number one right after the introduction?
I think probably the best place to do it is the where it says results, number 3.
Number 3. Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll go to that page. I'm going to reshare the screen. Add that to the screen. So then number 3, it says results 3.1 safety database, and 3.11 is a general overview. So it is estimated that approximately doses
It's censored.
of BNT, right? There's a sensor underneath there. Doses of BNT 162B2 were shipped worldwide from the recipient of the first temporary authorization for emergency supply on the 1st of December 2020.
Actually, hold up. Scroll to the very top.
Oh, sure.
And show the the title of this. This is the document that was released by a court
Sure.
that just so we know what we're talking about here.
No, sure. The very, very, very first page on there says cumulative analysis of post-authorization adverse event reports of PF 07302048 received through February 28th, 2021.
This is some of, and I don't think it's all of, but I'm pretty sure it's some of the evidence that Pfizer wanted to keep secret about the jabs. If anybody knows anything about Pfizer wanting to keep these things secret for 76 years,
Yeah.
This is part of that information that
Okay,
they wanted to keep secret
I'm
for
gonna go
like
back down.
76 years. This was released by a court. They
Slowly
were
scroll
ordered to.
back down through these. That way somebody can pause and read if they really want to read the introductions and the methodologies.
And this was done over a 3-month period. This is the information that was given to the F.D.A for the jabs that they had conducted tests with. And that was over the course of 3 months from December the 1st until February the 28th. So
Right.
That is what this is pertaining to. Now, again, I don't know if there's any other information that is
So
yet to
then,
be released in the
so then
future,
the
but
next paragraph, because you just repeated again what I had just read, what I actually initially read, and then we scrolled up and come back down. You repeated that the first through the first of December through of 2020 through the 28th of February 2021.
yes,
And
yeah.
this is cumulatively through that date, there was a total of 42,086 case reports. 25,000 of those were medically confirmed and 16,000 plus non-medically confirmed, containing 158,893 events. Most cases received from the United States. Um,
From the UK, Italy, Germany, France,
right, it gives
Portugal.
it gives some numbers. This is
Right.
13,007. UK is 13,004. Italy's 2,500. Germany's 1913. France is 1506. Portugal's 866. Spain is 756. And the remaining 7,324 were distributed among 56 other countries. So all around the world.
But most of the events that were reported were from more Western countries.
Right.
So European
Right,
countries,
from the
Canada, the
United
United
States,
States.
UK, Italy. I
Right.
mean, it started moving it around the world, so I mean,
So if you look at that, it says 158,893 events. And if you scroll down past table 1 here, just to show what this paragraph says. Now, this is an introductory paragraph to something else, but just so you know
so
the numbers
the
initially.
paragraph right underneath the graph. Is that what
The
you're looking
paragraph underneath of table 1.
at? Okay, so the paragraph under table 1 says, as shown in figure 1, the system organ classes that contain the greatest number, greater equivalent to 2% of the events in the overall data set were general disorders and administration site conditions, nervous system disorders. It has numbers to go along with all these.
Altogether, all of those
Muscle,
numbers.
skeletal, and
Right.
connective tissue disorders, gastrointestinal disorders, skin and contusion tissue disorders, respiratory, thora- thoracic, and again, I'm not a doctor. Media essential
Intestinal.
disorders,
Yeah.
infections, and
I can pronounce it.
infestations, injury, poisonings, procedural complications, and investigations. And each one of those had its own series of numbers. And it looked like they used the same formula of, going from greatest to least.
All of those numbers together that are there, it is 139,888 altogether that are reported as being some form of an adverse event to a jab that Pfizer was doing testing on in this time period between December the 1st up to February the 28th. And that's a lot of reports. And again, the nervous system reports there's 25,957. That's a lot there. Musculoskeletal is second place in that.
Yeah.
And if you scroll down to figure 1, actually, just to give the full context before we get to what they deem as being a relevant case, okay, just to show the overall number of these cases. I mean, you look at all of those general disorders, and the second place is neurological.
Sure.
That's there, or nervous system is what they listed as. I mean, there's a lot. That's general disorders is about under half of them they say are serious. The rest of them they say are non-serious. And so the blue is non-serious. The purple is serious. And this is
I see
according to
that.
them over the course of 3 months. Now, again, over the course of 3 months, how are you able to test for something and actually find the long-term effect of whether or not this is some sort of a disorder that could develop into being something serious? I mean, 3 months is hardly no time at all, really. And as far as like anything that you could test, I mean, and this is just common sense. I mean, they tested pregnant women, and in order to understand the effects on a unborn child fully, you would need 9 months because it takes 9 months for a child to develop in their mother's womb. So, there's 3 trimesters. This only would go through one trimester or one portion, like, yeah, one trimester, 1 3 month period. So it's like you can't really determine fully. And they space out here. Uh, if you look at, and I don't think you can see this very well. No, you can't see this very well on the stream, but you can zoom into that a little bit, like towards the top where it says 100%.
Yeah, I can bring that up just a little bit here.
If you see, it says cardiac, vascular, blood, and lymphatic. Now, I would, in my opinion, just so you kind of have an understanding, I mean, like, that's all pertaining to the cardiovascular system. Okay, because cardiac, vascular, blood, right? That whole thing. Over half of the reported that's there in the cardiac is serious. Over half of the vascular serious. Blood and lymphatic is just under half. If you were to put all 3 of those together in one bar and just call it the cardiovascular system, it would be like over half of them would be
That's
serious, and it would
right.
be over 1,000. So this is just how they separate it out for the sake of science, if you
Yeah.
will, for the sake of reporting it to the F.D.A. But, you know, I mean, if you were to, think about it yourself, right? Like, cardiac, vascular, right? They listed it as separate because, there's, to them, the scientists, the medical people, they want to specify, but to you, to the average person, there's cardiac. Everybody just thinks of cardiovascular system, right? You just think of your heart, your arteries, your blood vessels and stuff.
Right.
Well, all of that together, I mean, if you were to stack all 3 of those together, that's quite a bit. And, I mean, and again, like I said, look at all of the non-serious. Those could all easily turn into a serious case within like 2 weeks after they stopped the 3 month testing period. Could easily turn into something serious. And they would have no idea because they stopped the testing. And they just counted it as non-serious. But just look at the numbers though. I mean, it's quite a bit. And like I said, some of these things, like, again, there's cardiac,
I mean,
vascular, blood, lymphatic. That all has to do
you
with
could take
cardiovascular system. You can
everything that
put
they
those
have
together.
recorded, right? Even if you took everything they have recorded, you can see even when it comes to like the cardiac, the vascular, the psychiatric, the blood, the eye, what the immune system. That one was like all purple.
I mean, there's infections, there's lymphatic and blood is listed together, and then there's immune. Infections and immune. Immune is 100% serious. Infections is almost 100% of them are serious. And you could probably put those together just
Even if you
just
put
in your own mind,
a
right? Like just
whole
dealing with the
bunch of
same
it
system.
together. It's just amazing what you actually could come up with for a graph and be like, well, here's the serious and non-serious or whatever, as opposed to breaking it down to anything. And you'd actually have this tremendous number and be like, whoa, wait a minute. And that's the reason that they probably broke it down, because they're like, oh, we can't release this information like this. Release this information like this, people will start thinking for themselves and actually stop doing what
Yeah.
we need them
Yeah.
to do. Again, folks, we're not doctors. We're not telling you what to do. We're just reading documents. Make sure you see your doctor and do what's best for you. I'm going to move on a little bit here, whatever.
So if you scroll back up to
table
table
2 is
1,
huge. Holy crap.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm back at table
But
1.
if you scroll back up to table 1,
Uh-huh.
it deals with the number of relevant cases out of the 100 and something thousand of the reports that they received. They deemed 42,086 to be relevant to them. And again, that doesn't mean that the other
Well,
cases that
doesn't
were
mean that they
reported
went
doesn't
through the
mean it won't become relevant in the
42,086.
future. Right. It's just that number.
They really like to play with numbers and try moving things around to make it look like there's nothing going on.
Yes, they seem to want to do that in this, in my humble opinion.
Well,
Yeah, and if you
like
look at the
again,
number,
I have really not even read through this one very much. I just kind of skimmed through it or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's some interesting information. So you talking and explaining this to me or whatever as we're going, it took me 2 seconds to get to the same mindset that did with reading the whole thing several times. I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm obviously you came up with the same conclusion the first time you read it, and you're like, wait a minute, let me read that again. Well, wait, that didn't make. I read it 5 times now, and it's still just. Why would they do this? That's ridiculous, bud.
Yeah, so let me see where I was at. Here we go. So age range 17 equal to 17 or under is 175, they say. And if you go down, it says there's an A there, and if you go to the bottom, it says in 46 cases reported was under 16 years old, and in 34 cases was under 12
I'm
years old.
sorry, I kind of lost you. Were you graph 2 or
Table 1?
You're still on table 1?
Table 1. Oh yeah, you're skipping around. I was looking at
No,
my own because it's just a bit easier for me to look
I'm
at.
not that far away from it. I just kind of like, what did he say now?
I'm at table 1.
I do have a slight form of some ADHD. I do have a little bit of OCD. So I mean, I have
Well,
issues. I have issues of my own or whatever to go along with it or whatever. So doing things and listening to people without wanting to go further or whatever isn't the easiest thing for me.
So go back up to table 1.
Was I not on table 1?
You're on figure 1 now.
Oh, I'm on
okay. There
figure
you are.
1. Okay,
Table 1. There you go. There you go. Now it lists all of those and it has the relevant cases. And if you look at,
I'm laughing at myself. Table 1, general overview, selected characteristics of all
Right.
cases received during the reporting interval.
Yep.
Okay, what were you saying now?
Now I was saying before, 17 equal to 17 or under was reported 175 cases, and it has an A beside it. And if you go underneath, it says in 46 of those cases reported, it was under the age of 16, and in 34 cases was under the age of 12. And if you look at the case outcome, recovered and recovering is 19,582 out of the 42,000. So that's rounding about half, almost close to half, have recovered, or as they say are recovered or recovering. Recovered with, how do you pronounce this? I know what it means. A sequelae, I think is what they call it. That is if you've recovered, but you still have some sort of like a lingering side effect of some kind. That's 520. Not recovered at the time of the report was 11,361. And if you get to the next one underneath
he's not
of that,
a doctor either, folks.
right? Yeah, I'm not. Totally not. No, I'm not a doctor. But if you look underneath of that, it has the characteristic of being fatal. Now, that means that they're dead. So there are 1,223 people that have just died from a certain jab. So, I mean, again, if there was a bag of frozen mixed vegetables in the frozen section of Walmart, and if a bunch of people just went by and was like, oh yeah, it's a new bag of frozen vegetables and it'll make you really healthy and strong and everything, and then 1,200 of them just die, and the only commonality that they can come up with is that they had the bag of frozen vegetables, I think that bag of frozen vegetables probably would be taken off the shelf.
Yeah, right.
I think there would be some sort of like a recall or, inspection of some sort, or like, I don't know. And then of course you have the great unknown. They always have the great unknown in this document, you'll find out. There's 9,400, just an even number of 9,400. We have no frigging clue where the hell these people went, what the hell happened. We don't know. They might have just dropped off the face of the earth. Pfizer has no clue. According to them, anyway, there's just a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has the governments of the world at their whim. Like, I mean, it's not like you couldn't know where any of these people were to find out what happened, you know. But hey, it was after the 3 months, so
I mean,
we're just not gonna pay attention.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's not like these
Comes
people are
comes to my
lost.
head while you're going through this or whatever is the one person that claims to be a doctor that shouldn't be claiming to be a doctor has a lot to do with this.
Oh, Gil Bates,
Well, yeah, that guy too.
the great Bill Gates, the Lord God of all vaccines.
I mean, I had set out a tweet. I don't know, it was yesterday, day before, that went along with somebody's claim or whatever, of things multiplying, and it was something to the fact of um, Gil and Doc need to stop having babies. They keep on coming up with new variants. Because that's basically what it is. It's two guys that are not doctors claiming to be doctors and creating variants.
Yes, no one else, we can't give medical advice. No one can give medical advice, but the great Gil Bates can go on
Right.
TV and just talk about
Gil and his doctor
however
friend.
they want. And right, any of these other, any of these other people, they can just talk about it and say whatever comments they want to and advertise it to your kids and get
They're
sued.
the one. They're right. They're the ones that are the professionals. They're the ones that know everything that's going on. They're the ones that are going to tell you that this is what needs to happen, and they're not doctors. They need to freaking stop. Fauci is not a doc.
Oh, Dr. Sickle, as I like to call him sometimes, because his last name, Fauci, comes from Italian, and it means sickle.
It means a sickle.
It means the
That's
sickle.
so funny.
And that comes from the Dark Ages, and whenever they had the Black Plague.
Sure.
And that was the depiction of the angel of death was with the sickle. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so I'm just going to call you Mr. Sickle, because apparently in the town where his ancestors were, there was like a lot of death from the Black Plague or whatever. So I guess that was adopted as their surname and whatnot. So, but at any rate, Dr. Sickle, also is not a practicing person. He doesn't actually go out and practice any kind of hands-on.
I mean,
stuff.
Like,
he doesn't meet.
There's another person that like I want to say it's the wife of somebody or whatever claims to be a doctor of education.
Oh,
she's a doctor.
Oh,
you
mean Brandon's wife?
Right, Brandon's wife. You can have a doctorate in almost anything. That does not mean you are a doctor.
She better be a doctor of cleaning up someone's britches, but whatever.
Right, she cleans. She has to clean Brandon's britches every day or whatever.
That's what she has a doctorate in, folks. That's what she's got a doctorate in.
Well, the actual doctorate's in education, elementary education. So I mean, when you actually think about it, you're like, elementary education. What's that make you? That doesn't make you anything more than a 12-year-old child. Because I mean, my son won't go into a public school. He will not go to a public school. He will be homeschooled. Anybody that's not homeschooling their children already probably has some inclination over the last few years that they shouldn't be in a public school, and has seen what is actually being forced down their throats. It's so disgusting.
Yeah. But getting back to this.
Yeah, getting back to this thing.
Right.
So we're still on table 1. We haven't moved on from
Yeah, but we will here. It's 1,223 fatalities. And there's 9,400 that, again, nobody
just
knows.
unknown. They don't know what's going on with them.
Unknown. We
They
have unknown what
disappeared.
goes on.
They they evaporated into mid, whatever. They're just poof, gone. Like, nobody
And
cares.
again, it's not like they're deep inside of the Congolese jungle in Africa. This is like some guy that like lives in like London, England or something, or like freaking, I don't
Right
know, the
in your
Midwest
backyard.
somewhere.
Right in
Yeah,
your
right. Like he's your neighbor. He's like, it's I mean, it's like it's not like these people are impossible to find. It's just, oh, they just dropped off the face of the earth. Well, because they stopped counting. They didn't want after 3 months, it was
I
just,
mean,
well, we don't know.
if I was standing in a line waiting to get my fresh frozen vegetables, and I watch somebody collapse and get hauled out, shivering and shaking, and trembling from whatever vegetables they just consumed, I'm not going to consume those vegetables. I'm going to I'm going to run away from that line. I'm not going to stand in that line looking for those frozen vegetables. And I'm like,
Right.
no, I don't want your frozen vegetables. Keep them to yourself.
Unless you're in some sort of, freaking, I don't know, like some sort of zombie for the government or whatever. But
Right?
anyway, yeah. I must get my frozen vegetables. Why? Because I must. That's a good reason.
I'd pass. Yeah, really, it's a big, strong pass on those frozen vegetables. I'm not interested.
Right.
So
Now, if we scroll down to, let's
to
see.
where I sat at the longest time, sat at figure one. When you were telling me to go to table one, I was sitting on figure one. I'm like, oh yeah,
Now let's
I
scroll
should
down
not
from
be
there.
sleeping. Scroll down a little bit further. So there's table two. Table two seems to be part of page 8 and part of page 9.
Because they list all kinds of things. Oh, by the way, it says infections and infestations in table 2. If you notice, the only one that's listed is coof.
Yeah, I see that. The only infection
That's very
infestation
interesting. I
is
thought
that.
this was supposed to be rid of coof, but
So I'm
coof
right
seems
here.
to be still coofing around. Apparently, there's 1,927 claimed to still be coofing. That's interesting. This was the cure-all, This is holy crap. If you don't get it, you're an enemy of the state or you're an enemy of society. Oh my
White
god.
supremacist.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. There's almost 2,000 of these individuals
Right, almost
seems to still be
2,000.
coofing. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of some interesting stuff in there. I highlighted that one as you were reading
Yeah.
that one. Injuries, poisons, and complications. I mean, they got nice little low 2%, 3%, 4, 5%, 8, 24%. 24% complained of a headache.
Yeah, that's listed under nervous system disorders. But what could be causing that headache? I mean, did someone hit you in the head with a baseball bat or like what? I mean, it's like,
That was a
you just don't really have. I mean, some
10,000.
people have headaches,
Holy
but
man.
it's. I mean, when's the last time somebody goes like, "Oh, gee, man, I had like a headache or a migraine or whatever," after as we're using the analogy now, eating the frozen vegetables, right?
Yeah. I'm just going to scroll up here real quick because I wanted the exact number on that. For whatever reason, I guess they don't have the exact number on that. I didn't want to try adding it all together in my head.
Oh, right. Now, if you go to table 3,
but there's also an awful lot of nervous system disorders that come along with that.
Right.
I mean,
right.
There's simply doing a quick ad. So 13, 14, 15, 16, over 16,000 people complained of nervous system disorders.
And this is from the people that they deem to be the, the worthy group, the the 42,086 that they claim that are uh, irrelevant. They're relevant cases. So out of those, yeah, that's quite a bit.
Wait a minute here. Skin and subcutaneous tissue disorders. Arrhythmias are part of subcutaneous skin disorders? Arrhythmia?
I don't think that's like cardiac arrhythmia. I looked. Oh man, I looked at that thing up. I think I still have that term, but
Maybe
it's
I'm
not
saying
cardiac.
maybe I'm saying that wrong, and maybe it's
Yeah,
just
you're saying it wrong. It's said differently.
right. I'm
Arrhythmia
reading
is with an
extra.
A.
I'm reading extra letters. Then
Yeah,
that's fun. Gee, go figure, right? I'm just a
that
normal
is.
person that's reading, adding extra letters to something. You actually
Yeah,
like, wait a minute here, and that's
that
just
I
skin
believe.
condition. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Oh, it's yeah. Did you look that up?
I
Because
didn't.
okay, because I think I remember what it is. It's kind of like the thing that you get, or that someone would get when they get like a tick bite, and you see the bullseye.
Oh, okay.
It's the same type of reaction. It's like, something like it's some sort of like reaction that the skin has to,
Did you
I
look
think,
up
like
every
something
single one
new
of these
that's
words,
introduced.
Doc?
If I'm not mistaken, that's what that is. Yeah, I looked all of these up initially.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I looked all of
Oh,
these up initially. I
dang.
looked up all the terms. But
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause that
that's
is
kind
that
of
is
weird
that
though.
is
It's like, I mean, or maybe it's not too weird. I guess it depends on how much like swelling at the site is, or like how much redness is there, or what kind of shape
true.
is the redness. But again, they don't really tell you that. It's just these are very generalized terms that are used. Like I said, I don't think I've even heard of this term before until I looked this up. But it's like a generalized thing of like, something, I guess, new being introduced to the skin, or something foreign or whatever, and it hits the skin or goes into the skin, it punctures it, and it like there's a redness that occurs around it. It's not a rash. It's a certain type of a reaction the skin has to that. So pretty sure that's what that
You know
is.
what caught my eye on that one? When you look at the reason it caught my eye is the line that's underneath separating that one from the next. The line is not connected with the actual line that goes across the whole thing. It's like they whited it out and they wrote something over the top, and then they tried to redraw the line, and it's not in the right spot. That's my OCD kicking in and seeing stupid things that don't really matter.
Oh, yeah, like it's a little bit darker.
That
Same
line is
lines.
shifted or whatever on that one for whatever reason. It's just a strange little whatever.
Yeah.
But that next table, that table 3, safety concerns, important identification risks, anaphylaxis.
Yeah. And if you go back up to, uh, where was this? Immune, which, anaphylaxis is an immunal reaction. It's,
Yeah,
that's when your immune system
and
overreacts.
that's when like anaphylaxis.
The
So like
immune system that they
anaphylaxis is nothing anymore. I mean, the nervous system disorders were headache, dizziness, parathyroid parathylesis, and hypoesthesia. So I mean, they went with those ones, but they didn't pick up the anaphylaxis for whatever reason. I wonder what that one actually looked like.
Well, at the top where there was that chart, that graph where it showed immune, that whole section is colored in purple. So that's all serious,
Right,
is what
it's
they
all
say.
serious.
So
Important potential risk: vaccine associated enhanced, including vaccine associated enhanced respiratory diseases. And then missing information: use in pregnancy and lactation, use in pediatric individuals under the age of 12, and effectiveness.
so if you scroll down to table 4,
That's just, I mean, but they've talked about the effectiveness, the efficacy of the stuff, and almost anybody that talks about it, that's what they're like. Oh, the efficacy is just great.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's fantastic.
You should do
Everybody
it.
should get 85 of these.
Oh, sure. Then table four, first thing, anaphylaxis.
Yeah. So, since this temporary authorization for emergency supply, and then it lists the dates this was done in. It says that there's 1,833 potentially relevant cases were retrieved from the anaphylactic reaction SMQ narrow and broad search strategy, applying the MED-DRA algorithm. And these cases were individually reviewed and assessed according to the Brighton calibration, defined the level of diagnostic certainty in the table below. And it says underneath of their calibration that there is 290 in the BC1. So, and again, the total, again, like they just show you like, BC1, BC2, BC3, BC4, BC5, and the total is 1,833 of reported potentially relevant cases of anaphylaxis. There were 1,002 cases, 54% of the potentially relevant cases retrieved, 2,958 potentially relevant events from the anaphylactic reaction SMQ broad and narrow search strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're talking a lot of, and then it says countries of evidence. The UK, there was 261, US, there was 184, Mexico, 99, 82, 67, 38, and all these add up.
Right, and it goes to almost every single country in the UK.
But then it says at the end, it says conclusion, the evaluation of BC cases level 1 through 4 did not reveal any significant new safety information. So it's nothing new.
Oh, there it is. Level 1 through 4 did not reveal any significant new safety information. Anaphylaxis is appropriately described in the product labeling are non-anaphylactic hypersensitivity events. Surveillance will continue.
Yeah. If you look under there, it says B, and I could not find where the B was at. Oh, there it is. Underneath fatal. That's right. It says there were 9 that were deemed to be just out and out fatal. And there's 19,022 that are resolved or resolving. Not resolved is 229. And then, of course, there's the great unknown again with 754. That's if you scroll up, and it's right underneath of the countries. It shows the gender and then relevant outcome. I forgot about that. Relevant outcome, and it has an A beside it. And if you go underneath of the table, the A is referenced.
There's the A.
And it says different clinical outcome may be reported.
Right after the fatal line. Okay.
Right. From the A, it says different clinical outcome may be reported for an event that occurred more than once to the same individual.
And then B says there are 4 individuals in the anaphylaxis evaluation who died on the same day they were vaccinated, although the patients experienced adverse events, 9 that are potential symptoms of anaphylaxis. They all had serious underlying medical conditions, and 1 individual appeared to have the pneumonia that likely contributed to their death. So, I mean,
which COOF pneumonia oftentimes is labeled as that, even though, well, there's other reasons for having pneumonia, but they say they have underlying medical conditions and all that, but still, I mean, you have an anaphylaxis reaction. I mean, so if you keep scrolling.
So in table 5. So this goes through vaccine-associated enhanced disease, including vaccine-associated enhanced respiratory disease.
Now, I didn't really go over this too much when I was reading it, but
Okay.
because, I mean, jab associated enhanced disease, I mean, that, I mean, the numbers, like I was saying up there, they only did this for 3 months. I mean, how do
Right.
you know the full extent of what you would claim to be directly associated? But even so, with them claiming that this is directly associated, which is a jab associated enhanced disease, uh, let's see the numbers here.
Of the 317 relevant events, the most frequently reported PTs were greater or equal than to 2% were drug ineffective, 135. I mean, and then it goes through a list of what, dyspnea, diarrhea, the pneumonia, vomiting, respiratory failures, and seizures. And they give numbers for everything. There's a lot of information that they give out in this.
Yeah,
It's too
some of it
bad.
I feel
It's
like could
too
be
bad
grouped
they
together.
didn't continue to do this research on this.
Right, you know. But if you look underneath, let me see here. Oh, it's this third paragraph in the block in table 5. It says since the first temporary authorization for emergency supply under regulation 174 in the UK and through which started on the 1st of December and through the 28th of February, there were 138 cases and reporting 317 potential relevant events were retrieved. So that's potentially relevant cases. Seriousness criteria for the 138 cases:
Which is
medically
the
significant.
317 relevant events that I just kind of went through or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, so yeah, I mean that's kind of a I
the
don't know.
criteria seriousness for the total 138 cases. Of the 138 that were medically significant, 71, which 8 also serious for disability. Okay, hospitalization required, non-fatal and non-life-threatening. 16 of which 16 of those, and then one of which was serious. There, the parentheses are kind of weird. Life-threatening, 13, 7 of which also were serious for hospitalization. Death, 38. And again, this is only 3 months over. There's 42,000 that they give, and then they go into the ones that have what they would consider to be jab-associated enhanced disease or jab-associated enhanced respiratory disease. And
Well,
that's the numbers as you go down into those specific categories in that percentage, it's still a fairly
that next one's kind of
significant
confusing.
percentage.
It says that the genders of female were 73, males were 57, and 8 were unknown.
Oh, so I guess they were just, I don't know, whatever, a pansexual, you know. They like to do things with frying pans, I guess. I don't know what the hell. I don't,
I mean,
okay, oh, I kind of know
sorry,
what the hell,
folks.
but yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now. There's only two genders in this world: male and female. Anything else than that is a mental disorder. You can go ahead and chew me up for that one all you want. I really don't care because that's the effing
Well,
truth.
isn't there
I'm
also
so
the
sick
one?
of people saying, "Oh, I'm this. Oh, I'm that." Yes, you can feel that way, but first go see a psychologist and then go and figure that out.
But isn't there the one where it's like the Twitch freak that dressed up like Bambi or something? Like and he claimed that he was a female deer now or whatever. And like I don't even, so it's someone once said it takes all kinds, but what takes all kinds? That's what I want to know.
I, well, right, because I mean,
I
I
agree
just
completely with you. I'm just messing with you.
no, I know. It's just interesting because they're like, oh, you know, I'm a girl and I only like girls, so that makes me a lesbian. Oh, really? So when you were getting it on with your other lesbian friend, who put the strap on?
Oh my.
you know, we're going on our 2 hour frame right now, so we can
Oh
kind
my.
of we can kind of move on a little bit with some of that or whatever. But you know, when you comes down to it and you start thinking about it, I mean, there's still only two genders. I mean, it's just beside the point on unknowns. Come on.
The unknown. They were the
I know
unknown.
we kind of deviated off of our stuff or
Right,
whatever.
right,
We kind
right.
of went along because I seen the unknown. I'm like, what the hell is that?
Everyone else would like to know too.
Just
Except Pfizer. They don't really, Pfizer, they don't really seem to care too much. If you scroll down to the next table, table
well,
6.
before I hit that, because now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, age range from 21 to 100 years with a mean of 57.2 and a median of 59.5. That means they went and they inoculated anybody and everybody that was in a nursing home, because I don't know any 100-year-old that's not sitting in a nursing home to get these
There's a few,
numbers.
but hey,
I, I
generally.
generally they've already, by the time they hit 80 or whatever, most of them are looking at potential nursing home, because children are in their 60s and 70s themselves, with their children sitting in their, when you start breaking down ages or whatever, that are sitting in their 40s with their children that are sitting in their 20s, those people do not want to take care of the 100-year-old. They got more things going on in their head, like trying to identify as something, as opposed to worrying about this 100-year-old person.
What do I identify as? A tree? A water buffalo? But yeah, but 38 were fatal.
Right. Okay. So then, table 6,
Yes, this is very concerning. Now, this
description of
is,
missing information, use in pregnancy and lactation.
yes, this is the pregnancies that were tested. It says that there were pregnancy cases, there's 274 cases, which include the following: 270 mother cases were reported, and it describes them, one involving twins and so forth. Pregnancy outcomes for those 270 reported. First one they list: spontaneous abortion, 23, right off the bat. Outcome pending is 5, so who the hell knows?
There's the spontaneous abortion.
Premature
I'm
birth,
trying to highlight some of the stuff as you're reading it. Premature birth was neonatal death, spontaneous abortions with
immature death was 2 of each of those. So there's neonatal death, and then abortion, and how do you pronounce? I forget. I keep forgetting how to pronounce this. Inturinate. Oh, can't pronounce it. I looked it up. I know.
I was trying to figure it out once you got to there, so that way I could actually correct you. But uterine.
Okay, yes, intrauterine death. That's how it is. Why does my brain not want to see that? Anyway, intrauterine death. Two of each of those.
Not aborted.
So spontaneous abortion with intrauterine death. So there's two of those. Premature birth with neonatal death. There's 2 of those. So that's 4, and then you add that onto the 23. Just overall, all the babies.
Yeah.
That
right.
they're dead. A spontaneous abortion with neonatal death and normal outcome, 1 of each of those. So spontaneous abortion with neonatal death, there's another 1 of those. So that's 2 added on to the 23. That's 25, 26. And then, oh look, no outcome was provided for 238 pregnancies. So you had 26 deaths, And then it's just, oh, well, there's 238. We just don't know what the hell happened. He's like,
Yeah,
oh, well,
we just forget them. Whatever. They're just a bundle of cells still.
right, exactly, sure. It's a, right. So, and if you go down to the next group, it says they list these underneath uh, mother cases reported during pregnancy. Now, now it goes down. There's 146 non-serious mother cases. 124 mother cases is that what they list in this in the next dot there. 49 were non-serious. 75 are serious. And if you go to, it says pregnancy-related events reported in these cases coded to the preferred terms. Abortion spontaneous, 25. So there's 26 up there, and there's 25 down here. Now, what's 25 and 25?
50.
So there's 50 plus 1, there's 51. So there's 51
See how
baby deaths.
easy that
But
was
see,
to do math?
exactly.
I didn't have to draw some big, huge block of whatever it is and add numbers into different squares and sections to come up with 50. It was a simple, easy, 25 plus 25 is 50.
And then you add 1 because it's 26, but
But, okay.
it's 51.
So
But yeah,
51. Yeah. Ooh, that was really hard. I didn't draw another box to get the one in there.
Right. But do you see how they split this up? Pregnancy-related events in these cases coded to the preferred term, abortion spontaneous, whereas you go up to the other one where it says that it's listed differently underneath of a pregnancy. This is listed with the mother, and the other one's listed as just an overall pregnancy. And look how they do it. They put spontaneous abortion. They list it as that as the preferred term, but then all of a sudden down here it's abortion spontaneous. So they just switched the terms around. It's like, oh, it's different. I guess because the mother, when she reported that she lost her baby, she was like, oh man, I don't know, man. I had a problem. I had a headache. Look, there's 33 that reported a headache. So it's like, oh man, I had a really bad headache, and then my baby died. So I guess because she mentioned her baby second, maybe that's why they said like, well, it's not an initial pregnancy thing, so we'll just list it as different, I guess. I mean, I don't know how else you list it different. I mean, it says abortion spontaneous and then spontaneous abortion. Isn't that kind of the same thing? Like, I mean, but then they split it up because, again, they, in my opinion,
I suppose it depends on your gender.
Oh God!
If you went there again, I just seriously, I'm just stop making up stupid shit because both abortion spontaneous and spontaneous abortion are the same damn thing.
Yeah, because what's the outcome? I mean, let's be real. So there that is. There's 51 that's listed. But again, right? So you put those two together and then look up at the number of that says there's no outcome provided for at the previous one before the mother cases. 238 pregnancies. There's no outcome provided. I mean, that's an additional 238 outside of the 124 mother cases that they're pointing out here. I mean, we're talking a lot of pregnancies. And there's 51 of those babies are just dead. So it's like, what happened to the rest of them? Oh, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. Uterine contraction during pregnancy, premature rupture membranes, abortion missed, fetal death, 1 each. So there's another. Let's see. Abortion, premature rupture of the membranes. Not sure exactly what that would mean, but fetal death. I think it's fetal, right? Fetal death. So there's 2 of those, 1 of each. There's 2 more added, so that's 53. We're up to. And then, of course, it says other side effects are headache.
They're using this fetal term. They've used it several times.
Yeah, that's fetal.
Saying just fetal. They're putting an O in there for whatever reason. My assumption on that is that it probably means the same thing.
Yeah. 4 serious fetal baby cases reported. The preferred term, exposure during pregnancy, fetal growth restriction, maternal exposure during pregnancy, premature baby, 2 of each of those, and death neonatal, 1. So there's another. So they listed again, right? Like 4 serious fetal baby,
They're
and so
saying
there's another neonatal death. It says 1.
they're used. It's fetus. Fotal is the adjective as
Yeah,
opposed to the fetus being the noun.
right.
Mm.
So trimester of exposure reported in 22 of these cases. Now this is the 124 mother cases that they list. And the trimester of these pregnant mothers reported 22 of these cases was in the first trimester. So the exposure reported in the first trimester of 22 cases that they say, 19 of those cases was reported in the first trimester being exposed to the jab, to the effects of the jab, or having some sort of a detection of a jab being there, or effects of the jab. Second trimester, 1 case. Third trimester, 2 cases. So it's almost like the babies are being affected more so earlier on in the pregnancy than later on in the pregnancy, which I guess is why some of these pregnancies may just be unreported because, well, you know, the the baby, well, for one thing, they just stop reporting it, but the other thing, in the test itself, I mean, I would imagine if you have 53 deaths of the baby, it's like out of, a couple hundred, you have 53. Just, I mean, most of which are just spontaneous abortion. I mean, again, 50, what was it? 51 of them are just outright spontaneous abortion. And then there's like a couple others where they list the different, like neonatal death and so forth. But it's like, I mean, like around 50 was just outright spontaneous abortion. I mean, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big deal. And again, where's the rest of these? Nobody knows. There's 238 pregnancies. We have no clue. No clue. But first trimester, it says out of 22 cases, there was 19 of them that were exposed. Second trimester, 1 case. Third trimester, 2 cases. So it seems like earlier on in the pregnancy is when it seemed like, oh, there were, spontaneous abortions and other effects and so forth. And then, well, as we go on in the trimesters, we'll just stop counting, and then ultimately the test will be over. So, as we go along with the pregnancy, if anything else happens, if they end up having an effect later on, we won't even count it. But, from what they did count, it seemed like, probably earlier on, I would say. Which goes along with other things that other people have been talking about out in the interwebs, where they talk about how some of the things that are inside of these supposed jabs are to affect, or, well, they would affect a pregnancy, and probably earlier on in the pregnancy, which would confirm what some of these peoples on the interwebs have been saying. And you can find out who's been saying that yourself. I won't mention their names. I probably have like a sniper on me. I'll be Susan outside my window.
We're after 2 hours. Susan isn't listening anymore. You've heard
That's one of the
you've
biggest,
heard about that, right? Nick goes over that one every single time that he does a show. He's like, "Oh, we're past the 2 hours," and he goes off. Yeah, I love Nick Ricada. He's good stuff.
But that was like
it's
the
too
biggest
much of him,
thing.
That's all.
Yeah. And it also talks about how there was some exposure to the jab in breastfeeding, which it's like, I mean, when have you ever heard of a baby being exposed to, like, let's say, for example, like a mother got like a flu shot or something. It's like, when has that baby ever had exposure to what the mother got? And when the baby's born and the baby breastfeeds, I mean, when have you ever heard of like, oh my golly, like my baby was exposed to my jab? Like, when has that ever occurred? I've never heard of that occurring before with any other type of thing. It's kind of
no, right. Any other I suppose because usually you get your inoculations when you're a kid,
Right, right. And of course,
for
they
almost
vaccinate. A lot of
anything
people
or
want to.
whatever. I
A lot
mean,
of
my
people.
2-year-old's up to date on all his stuff or whatever. Because
Right.
obviously you have to still do certain things, or whatever. Um, that I think that's the hard one for me, or whatever, is when it comes down to them trying to push a new um, inoculation of sorts to anybody, to everybody, trying to say, okay, we need to take care of this or whatever, and we need to stop people from getting sick with this new disease that's out there or whatever that we were pre-warned about all the way back in 2016 or 2015. We were warned about this. Mr. Sickle said something about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
He said
Mister.
he said something that because he didn't like Trump, said that by the time Trump was done or whatever, that we would go through some sort of whateverness. And it's
A
like, well,
pandemic. I
well,
mean, a pandemic. Totally.
an endemic. I mean, because I mean, it's where it's going is it seems it's going to that. Like this is going to end everything and everybody because we are the carbon that they want to remove. That's my thought on it anyway.
Mm.
I,
Carbon is bad. Carbon is bad. Even though carbon is the base of all life on Earth.
almost anything and everything, right?
But at any rate, there's 116 cases reported exposure to the jab during breastfeeding. I mean, that's 116 cases.
That doesn't make sense. And
17 cases. Out of 17 cases, 3 were serious, 14 non-serious. So, and then it goes on to different other little things, but that's 116 cases reported exposure to the jab during breastfeeding. Exposure to it via breast milk. That is just, to me, I've never heard of anything like that.
rashes, infants' irritability, infantile vomiting, diarrhea, insomnia, and illness. Poor feeding infant lethargy, abdominal discomfort, vomiting, allergy to vaccine, increased appetite, anxiety, crying, poor quality sleep. Irritation, agitation, pain. There's this one each of all of those. That's a these numbers are just increasing and growing or whatever as things go on.
Now, if you go down to, and I kind of, well, let me see this here. If you scroll down to table 6, it says lack of efficacy cases.
Vaccine effectiveness.
Jab.
Table 6.
Jab, 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 jab.
Like I said, we're past the 2 hours, so I don't. This will be uploaded to Odyssey. That way, Susan, has an issue with it or whatever, we can just remove it from YouTube.
I wish you could just feed her a carrot and she'd be satisfied, but nope.
Yeah, no, she's not that way. We'll have to do a couple more shows on some other things where we don't actually get into this kind of stuff or whatever, so that people can actually subscribe, like, view our stuff, buy your shirts.
Yeah. You can buy my wonderful Gil Bates t-shirt that is made from the meme where someone geniusly put Bill Gates's face on Freddy Krueger and his hands are full of, instead of razors, they're full of jabs. And it's very, I mean, it's just beautiful. I'm actually wearing it right now. It's actually fantastic.
That's fun.
Should totally get it. It's very comfortable. And it will start a conversation with anybody that sees it. I'm telling you. Immediately when I put it on, everybody asked me, what
What in
is
the
that?
world is that?
Like, what? Is that the great, the almighty, the all-powerful Bill Gates? What is what is he doing depicted in a horror movie? I don't know. Anyway, it's a cool shirt. You should go grab one. Start up a conversation about Bill Gates if you know anything about him. If you go down to lack of efficacy cases, by
Okay,
the way,
we're there on page 13. The jab effectiveness.
no, 14. I skipped that one because it doesn't really. To
Go on
me,
page
it goes.
14.
It's not too many big numbers, but
Okay.
I think some of these were. They don't. One of these didn't even give numbers. One of the little boxes didn't even give numbers, but this one
The
says lack
topic
of
is
efficacy
missing.
cases.
The topic is missing information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So number of cases that says lack of efficacy were
Lack of
1,665.
with a little B after the end of it.
I don't see the B actually.
You don't see the B.
No. Oh wait, here it is all the way.
It's right
all the way down
underneath all this.
558 additional cases retrieved in this data set were excluded from this analysis upon review. 546 cases cannot be considered true lack of efficacy cases because the preferred term drug ineffective was coded, but the subjects developed COOF infections during the early days from the first dose.
From the first dose. Interesting. Within 13 days.
It says of which 1,100 were medically confirmed lack of efficacy and 565 non-medically confirmed. So, I mean, it's quite a bit.
That's a long paragraph that's underneath that B. Okay. We'll go back to this.
Oh, you're still there?
Yeah, I was still reading that paragraph that came along with the B.
I'm just trying to get as many of the numbers as possible because that's the biggest thing. It's like, how many numbers of this is it affecting people? Is it not? How is it affecting people? And that's really what I was trying to go after when I was reading this is, where are all the numbers at? What are the, if it's not anything too serious, then move on to something else that, could be more serious, like the anaphylaxis that was listed earlier and the pregnancies and things like that, where it's like, that's just that's almost unheard of. To have that many spontaneous abortions. Most of the reported things with the babies, again, were spontaneous abortions. The fatalities are just outright just spontaneous abortion. And there were other different, little things, but it was like with the mother and, they classified it a little bit differently, right? But that's what I was trying to, get at.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at this, again, 1,665 number of lack of efficacy cases. And again, they say, 1,100 medically confirmed, 565 were non-medically confirmed. But again, what are they using for it to be medically confirmed? How are they conducting that, right? Like I said earlier, if it's like you call up, the Pfizer guy or whatever, or, the Pfizer guy gets a hold of you, and it's like, okay, hey, how's it going? It's like, well, I can't move my arm. It's like, did you go to a doctor? Well, no. And then they just write down that it's not, it's not medically confirmed. It's like, well, certain things, it's like, do you need to have it medically confirmed? Hey, this is supposed to get rid of COOF, and you went to some, test to get some test site, and you got one of their tests, which by the way, you can test in cantaloupe, and it'll have the same thing, positive or negative, and it's just, I mean, it's freaking cantaloupe, but whatever. So you go and you do that, right? And you get one of their tests that's so fantastic that the guy that made the test said it should never be used for
I
diagnosing
seen
disease.
I seen somebody
What
actually
the hell?
did a test on tap water and got it to come up positive.
Yeah, I mean, people do all kinds of things with them. I mean, it's just it detects anything, almost anything and everything. So, but anyway, but let's say you go off and you get one of those, and you're feeling ill, and you can't hardly breathe half the time, and oh my golly, and you're calling up, the Pfizer guy, and it's like, hey, Mister Pfizer man, yeah, I have this test that says that I'm positive for coof, and I'm coughing, and I'm having this issue, and whatever. It's like, oh, did you go to a doctor? It's like, well, no. It's like, okay, well then it might not be. We won't put that down. It's like, but I was supposed to have a jab. I thought this jab was supposed to help me. It's like, oh well, those 565 people, it's non-medically confirmed. I mean, how do you actually determine whether or not it's truly something where it is a true lack of efficacy? I mean, how do they tell what's non-medically confirmed? Again, right? Does it have to be confirmed by a doctor? I mean, again, like, if your arm stops moving and it's like, should I get this checked like by a doctor to make sure that I can't actually move my arm? It's like, well, if you can't move your arm, you can't move your arm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, I mean, if you're like a soldier in the middle of a war and, like there's a bullet flying and you get shot in the shoulder with a bullet, it's like, do you have to have a doctor to tell you, oh yeah, you got shot in the shoulder with a bullet in order for you to know that you got shot in the shoulder with a bullet? I mean, eventually, common sense
I don't know
kind
if
of
I could.
dictates.
I think I might need a doctor to tell me that.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's like, but that's kind of what this is sounding like, right? It's like, well, it's not medically confirmed, so we won't really count it in all of the numbers, and we won't really consider it to be that, that important to put in all the numbers, lists, and things, in like the totals of, that people would look at and go, oh, well, of course it's not medically confirmed. It's like, well, I mean, again, what is medically confirmed? Do you have to go to the doctor to be like, oh, gee, I'm sorry. I feel like I have the same symptoms. I mean, that's just like if your kid goes to school and picks up the flu and comes home and starts vomiting. It's like, well, gee, what happened to the kid? It's like, well, he got a fever, he's vomiting or whatever. And all the rest of the kids at school that he was with all had the flu. So he comes home with that. It's like, well, it's probably the flu. And he has all the symptoms and he has all the effects of it. And it's like, well, yeah, that's the flu. It's like, but no. You have to have a doctor, like do a blood test and like everything in order for your kid to know that they have the flu. I mean, it's like, I mean,
You know how they test for the
Pfizer
actual?
isn't stupid.
Do you know how
They
they
know.
actually test for the actual just regular everyday flu? A cotton swab that they stick in your nose and they poke the back of your throat and they pull it back out and they test that. And it sounds similar to something else that they used to do that.
Oh,
Did you
yes,
know
it
that?
does.
Yeah, oh yeah, right. It sounds like they're testing for other things with the same type
Now
of.
that I don't think I was aware of.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I remember the first time I actually come down with the flu, and I was like sitting in a chair and I was just dragging. I couldn't barely even stand up. And my girlfriend at the time helped me out. She actually, stripped me down, threw me in the tub to cool me off. I got to a certain temperature where I was actually able to finally move. And she brushed me to the hospital or whatever because she was concerned, obviously. And they go I'm sitting in the bed or whatever, and the doctor comes in. And she's like, "This is what we're gonna do," and she rips this thing open, and she's this big long Q-tip or whatever, and shoves it up my nose and touches the backside of my throat.
Oh, the Cuomo Q-tip.
Yeah, pulls it back out, does her thing. They take it away. They go do the test or whatever, and they said, "Oh, it'll be about 3 days before we can give you the positive and all the information that we need to know. But we're going to say that you have the flu. You look like you have the flu." And they gave me medicine for the flu that only takes 3 days to have. So then by the time I was done with the medicine and I was feeling great, finally got the piece of paper that said I had the flu. So I mean, how
I
they're
mean,
able to how they're
yeah.
able to test for this stuff, the coof so quickly and easily within moments and tell you that you have or you don't have is mind-boggling when it
Right.
still takes 3 days to actually find out if you actually have the normal basic everyday flu. I mean, which I don't know how normal or basic an everyday flu really is,
But
but
it's still, again, like they say, it's like, oh, it has to be medically confirmed. It's like, well, you have a piece of paper that says that it does, even though, I mean, again, like you're saying, like how reliable is that actually really? And then on top of that, you have all of the seeming symptoms. I thought after I got a jab, it was just, I was supposed to be more powerful than Superman. You know, I can freaking headbutt anyone I want to into oblivion, and it's, you're jabbed. It's, you're invincible.
yeah,
You
now
just have
you're
to keep wearing 85 masks on your face, and or 65. Excuse me, sorry, it's a little overboard.
right,
Just
right
take the whole
because
box out and just
it's
put it on your
not
face.
about how you feel, it's about how your neighbor feels.
Of course,
Like going and laying
be
out in the
polite and put a
sun. Make
muzzle on.
sure that your neighbor also has sunscreen on so you don't catch a burn.
Yeah, freaking crazy. But
I'm still
uh,
sitting on page 14 here.
yeah.
Was there anything else on page 14 that was interesting that you wanted to point out?
Well, it said that there was coof infection in that was suspected in 155 other cases, in 200 and confirmed in 228 other cases, and one case it was reported in the first jab dose was not effective. No other information. Oh, that's nice. Uh, coof infection suspected or confirmed. Outcome was reported as resolved or resolving in 165, not resolved in 205, or the great unknown, which is 1,230. Don't we all just freaking love the great unknown with these people? I'm telling you. They give out these things to everybody, and then it's just like, whoops, there was
Oh, and then it goes on to say
1,065 that were
there
saying that,
were there
you know,
were 65 cases that were fatal outcome as reported. Mm. So I mean, what, they died? 65 cases actually die. Oh, do we not all die?
now you sound like freaking Andrew Cuomo. He's like, like we all have to die sometime. It's like, oh, I mean, so I can just
I
go
was
up and like,
just trying to help you get it on with.
yeah, right, exactly, exactly,
Everybody's living too long.
yeah,
I,
eugenics. Excuse me.
I've watched Tim Pool quite a few times or whatever, and Mr. Dim Tool or whatever, and uh, his little sidekick Ian, when he turned 40 or his last birthday, was he 42, 43 or whatever?
Oh my God, he's 40.
Yeah, he's in his 40s.
Holy hell! I mean, okay, sure, he's 40. Yeah,
Well, see, and I am as well. So then I'm like, the one sentence that come out of his mouth that I always remember was, "I feel like I'm only a third of the way through my life. Like I should live until I'm about 120." And I've kind of like I've kind of said this for the longest time, that I still feel like I'm 18, 20 years old or whatever, and I'm in my 40s. I don't feel like I'm that old. And I always thought, I'm gonna live longer than a lot of people actually expect me to, or expect anybody to, or whatever, because the way things are going, the way they're until recent whatever, everything was super fun and interesting or whatever, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna live forever because of the way that, they're coming up with ways of curing illnesses and diseases or whatever to overcome them or whatever. So I mean, really, when it comes down to it, I kind of agree with them on that one thing. That yeah, absolutely, we should probably live until we're about 120 years old. Us current 40-year-olds, you know.
Well, I mean, that's not very good for the collective, quote
Well, right,
unquote.
and exactly,
And
and
you
that's where
know,
we're going with all this. Is basically is that they're like, well, that's too long. We're having to take care of all these people that are this old. We
but
have to.
that's called the death panel, and you're not supposed to have that conversation, says Bill Gates.
Oh, doctor. Okay, thanks, doctor.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that clip though? He's on a stage. He's like, would it be best to have uh, these people over? Oh crap! What did he say? Teachers. That's what he said. He said, like, would it be best to invest money in making sure teachers are paid than rather than someone in healthcare? But that's called the death panel, and you're not supposed to have that discussion. Just like let someone die because it might not be worth it. Whereas educating certain other children might be more worth it, and so forth. And where should we allocate the funds in society? But that's called the death panel. And you're not supposed to have that discussion. He starts smiling. It's like,
Oh,
Bill Gates T-shirt. Show everybody who Bill Gates really is, guys. Get your Bill Gates T-shirt. AmericaShirtsAreFirst.com. There you go.
we can throw your website across to you once we're done with all this, so that people can see what that kind of looks like if you're interested in doing that. It's easy to share a screen.
It looks fantastic.
I like your website, really.
But if you scroll down here to table 7 below table 6, so you go past, it's on page 16. This is the cardiovascular events now.
Okay, table 7 kind of splits itself. Oh my God, table 7 splits itself through quite a few pages.
Oh yeah,
Holy
that it does.
man. So
At
we'll
the beginning of this table,
go back to
cardiovascular.
This is page 16 at the very end of the page.
Yeah. The boxes, number of cases, 1,403, of which 241 were medically confirmed and 1,162 were non-medically confirmed. Country of incidence, and it goes down the countries where they reported. Females was 1,076. Males,
more unknowns.
Yes, the great unknown. Subjects, age groups.
So that subject age group, it looks like there's letters that come after the adult, the elderly, the child, and the adolescent.
Are they just? What did they do with that? That's
It's
a long
probably
way.
at the very, very bottom of the table or whatever. I'm not going to scroll through it.
Subjects ranged. Okay, it just tells you the exact number. 18 to 64, 65. Yeah, it just tells you the exact numbers.
Tells you the age of the difference between the adult, the elderly, and the child and the adolescent.
All right.
Okay.
Number of relevant events, 1,441, of which 946 were serious. 495 were considered non-serious.
That's a fairly high percentage off of that.
Out of 1,441 in this group, yeah. Reported relevant tachycardia, 1,098. Now, tachycardia is where your heart just like speeds up and you don't know why. Like it's a term that's just overall used where it's like, I mean, it could be that you're just having like a panic attack or something and your heart just like starts to palpitate or whatever. But that's kind of what that is. It's like you just don't know why. And so that's what you report is like it just starts to beat faster and you don't know why. And there's 1,098 of these people. So I guess they're all just in mass hysteria. They're all having panic attacks at once. I'm sure that's exactly what it is.
So I'm reading through these
and there's arrhythmia. It's ARR.
Right. the cardial, which is myocarditis, whatever, right? And then there's a couple different. There's an acute
Cardiac
myocarditis.
failure. There was
That
80.
that pisses me off when they say that there's an acute myocardial infraction, because there's no such thing as an acute myocarditis. If you get myocarditis, which is the weakening of a muscle, it's a weakening of a muscle. There's no such thing as, acute. That's so stupid. Myocarditis is the big one that they're actually, I'm trying to say that the coof had something to do with.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and they're also telling people in Britain that if they have, I believe it's Britain, that if they have any, feelings or reactions in their chest after having received certain jabs, that it is just simply psychosomatic, and that it is all just simply
Oh, it's
a
just
side effect of being,
it's
locked
in
up
your
for so
head,
long.
man. It's
It's
just in your head. Don't worry
it's
about it.
it's they call it post lockdown anxiety, and that's what it is. That's why you're holding your chest there. That's exactly why that is what they claim over there.
This shit's giving me anxiety.
Oh, a myocardial infraction. That's not myocarditis. Well, I guess it's sort of stems from the same sort of thought, but a myocardial infraction is just simply a heart attack. It's a fancy term for a heart attack. So myocarditis can lead to a heart attack. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, again, myocarditis, right? It's sort of the same train of thought there. But, just a myocardial infraction, that's just a fancy term for a heart attack. So there's acute heart
Either way,
attack,
when
there's cardiac
you actually
failure.
have a heart attack, it actually weakens that muscle, because
It
that
does,
muscle,
yeah.
right? I mean, so either way, it's all weakening
Right.
your heart. And if you're weakening your heart, a life expectancy's drop. I know this. You know why I know this? My father came down with something.
Oh, yes, that's right. You were telling me about.
My father came down with something or whatever. So he actually has an issue where AFib is what they call it. The weakening of the lower muscle or whatever. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, now he has to take a different medicine, a blood thinner, to keep him from clotting. Kind of interesting, eh?
Yeah. That it is.
Again, this whole however long this takes us is going to be uploaded to Odyssey.
Yeah.
It'll stay on YouTube as long as it can. As soon as Susan sees it and wants me to take it down, I'll take it down. So,
if you go down to page 17, it's in the same box. They just continue it on. And it says relevant event outcome fatal 136. Resolved or resolving is 767.
okay, hold on a second. I lost where you said that you were going with this. You went down to the next page. You're on page 17 at the top.
Yes, at the top. It's the same. Okay. It's in the same, box.
I just want to be sure that I'm staying with you. I don't want to be too far away from you.
Yeah, you're fine. You're right there. So, relevant outcome was fatal, and 136 of the reported total of cardiovascular issues. Resolved or resolving is 767. But I mean, again, will they be fully resolved? I mean, as you just stated, certain things that deal with the heart, if you put that kind of strain on it or you damage it in that kind of a way, it doesn't really get all that resolved. And as it
It,
says, I
right,
mean,
it
as it
doesn't
lists
repair
here,
itself.
resolved with a sequelae,
Sequelae.
sequelae. I don't know how to pronounce. I forget how to pronounce that word. But that is it's resolved, but there's still some sort of a side effect that still exists there. There's still something that exists there.
So you take the
There's
A. If
21.
you take the A and the E off the end of it, it's a sequel, right? Sequelae. But yeah, either way.
Not resolved, so that means that there is no resolution to it. It's just it happened and they're damaged. 140, and then the great unknown again is 380. I mean, there's all these numbers, and
There's so many
almost
numbers,
all of
and
them are
you're
in
like,
the
oh,
hundreds,
but we don't know what this one is.
right? And of course, the great unknown is always the largest. It's always the largest. Almost always.
It kind of makes you wonder what they're actually trying to cover up with that.
Yeah.
What is the unknown? Why is it being labeled as unknown?
The great
How many
unknown.
different things are they covering under the unknown?
Yes, one would definitely ask that question. Now, if you scroll down to page 20,
Okay, I'm gonna
or just
slowly
click
stop at
page
18. I'm gonna slowly stop at 19, and then we'll go to 20. That way, if anybody's wanting to read it off the screen or whatever, they can pause it.
Okay, yeah, right.
They can read through it if they really wanted to.
So, immune mediated autoimmune. So this is an autoimmune disorder that has come about. Number of cases 1,050, of which 760 were medically confirmed and 290 non-medically confirmed. Now, again, if an autoimmune disorder somehow, and there says, or the preferred term, if you look to the left side there, cytokine release syndrome, cytokine storm, hypersensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's immune system on overdrive there. I mean, it's quite a bit. 1,050 were reported, and then they said of which medically confirmed. There's more medically confirmed this time than non-medically confirmed. 760 were medically confirmed. So, yeah, it's like if there was 1,050 people that developed an autoimmune disorder, like
so then it's interesting that when they go into the country of incidents, they're like anything that's greater than 10 cases, and then they listed those. So there are countries that are under 10 cases.
Yeah.
So the numbers that they're giving, are not even accurate. They're just giving you the numbers that they want to give you. Because how many other countries had 9? And they're like, let's leave those out.
Right.
Because that'll drop the number down.
Yeah, like any little bit to manipulate the whole overall statistic, the cumulative total. If we can just kind of slowly, bring that down overall. There's hypersensitivity, neuropathy. There's myocarditis there.
That's interesting. Under the gender, there's only males and females.
What?
You see that under the
my golly!
Under the gender, there's only
this
males
is a
and
case
females.
for a lawsuit.
Whoa.
Holy crap!
Holy shit!
We gotta make sure all the fish people are represented here, people. All the dragons and trees, the birds and the bees and whatever the hell else they are. We gotta make sure they're represented, in these statistics. How dare Pfizer not do that? But if you look there's myocarditis 25.
Yeah, I see that.
Myocarditis. Hypersensitivity is 596.
Go figure, some kind of diabetes. psoriasis, dermatitis.
Raynaud's phenomenon, 11 each. I looked that up. I forget what that is now.
I was just going to ask you, did you look
I
that one?
Yeah, I forget what that one represents now. I forget. But there's musculoskeletal right underneath of that one. And that's also something that a lot of people in the interwebs were talking about, musculoskeletal.
Yeah.
They were also saying things that, perhaps what was inside of these particular jabs might actually negatively affect that. And, well, this report seems to agree with that.
The phenomenon is the problem that causes decreased blood flow to the fingers. I'm guessing that would actually go to, yeah, it also causes less blood flow to the ears, toes, nipples, knees, and nose, which would be the toe thing that they're complaining about, right?
Oh, could be. Could be.
Just a thought. It's interesting.
There's 3,600 of those. I mean, and it's just crazy, the numbers of these different things.
Oh, the musculoskeletal, 3,600. Right.
And again, what we're looking at here, again, this is from 42,086 that they took from, and they said, okay, this is what we think is quote unquote relevant. The total number of reported was over 25,000, but this is them just breaking it down into specific phenomenon when it comes to these different reported side effects. And so this is 3,600 of 42,086 that they deemed to be relevant. And then they even go down, again, like I said, further, and they've done this with every one of the things that we've looked over. 2,045 are medically confirmed, 1,555 non-medically confirmed. So, and it lists that, the countries where it's relevant and stuff. And yeah, it's just, relevant outcome, 1,801. Not resolved is 959. Resolved with a side effect, 49. And then the great unknown, again, is 853. I mean, again, the numbers just keep going. And it just, there's for every side effect, there's like freaking, seems like there's 100 people that have reported something. And at what point? I mean, vascular events. Vasculitic events. Do we need to go over that?
So I was just kind of
probably not, but
I was kind of, as you're reading all that or whatever. So then I was the neurological stuff or whatever. I mean, there's fibromyalgia. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of people are
204 seizures. Get. I mean, look at that. There's 200. If you look underneath of neurological, there's 204 seizures. Epilepsy, 83. I mean, Guillain-Barré syndrome, 24.
Multiple sclerosis relapse. There's the epilepsy.
But just the seizure alone, 204. I mean, that's... And that also,
foaming at the mouth. I mean, wow. There's a lot of stuff in here, really, when you start getting down into it.
Yeah, when you really get into the nitty-gritty of the numbers and the things that they list, it's like, wow. And this is just, like I said, a subset of a subset, basically, of numbers. But I mean, again, I'll just say it again. 204 seizures. How many videos that have been out on the interwebs have you seen where somebody is sitting inside of a jab facility and they get jabbed, and then all of a sudden it's just like they fall over, or they start shaking, or they start, like, they're sitting in their car and somebody comes up and gives them a jab, right? Some nurse or whatever, and then they just start shaking. I've seen countless of these videos. Well, I shouldn't say countless, but, it seems like it's countless. It's like, for a while there, I kept seeing it. Like every other day was like another video in a parking lot where they're giving out jabs and things, and, in comes the jab, and then 10 seconds later, they just kind of slip from their car seat. And it's like, where did they go? It's like, and they open the door and it's like, oh crap, they're, people are over there to like, carry them or pick them up or whatever. And it's like, what the freak? And there's other videos of people that are inside and they start to shake. And it's like, what the hell? Well, it seems to confirm that out of this subset of neurological disorders that
So,
were, as a result,
under
there's
under that
204.
one as well as the next one or whatever, when they go through the countries of incidence, at the end of it, they said the remaining 71 cases were from 22 different countries. So yeah, they listed it up to 9 on that one, but then they did list the other 71 cases that were in 22 different countries. So I mean,
And then it lists after neurological, it says other AESIs, adverse events of different kinds and so forth. Search criteria is herpes, viral infections,
yeah,
primary path or adverse event, immunization, inflammation, manufacturing, laboratory, analytic testing tissue. Did I read that? Okay, yeah, I didn't read that. Okay. Manufacturing materials issue, manufacturing production issue. I mean, it just lists different things of, I guess, where it could come from. Number of these cases that were just other, 8,152, of which 4,977 were medically confirmed and 3,175 non-medically confirmed. And these are just, again, they just listed as others. And they say herpes or MERS-CoV or MERS-CoV of, what does it say different? Okay, no, it just says MERS-CoV. Herpes. I mean, just other. There's 8,000 of these. 8,000. I mean, it's crazy. The number. And it continues to the next page. It's just crazy.
right, and that's where I was kind of. I have it highlighted what you read out, and I was kind of looking through some of this other stuff while you were talking there. It says most frequently reported relevant preferred terms under or equal to 6 occurrences included paraxia 7,666, herpes zoster 259, inflammation, oral herpes, multiple organ dysfunction syndrome, herpes virus infection 17, herpes simplex 13, and herpes zoster reactivation. So somebody that already had it beforehand, 6 each. So I mean, they're reactivating people's stuff or whatever that they don't want activated. That stuff, I've never actually had it. I've known a couple people that had, and they say it hurts. So I was like, oh, that's fun.
Now, pyrexia, the 7,666. Oh my golly, there's 666. Oh my gosh. Illuminati confirmed. It says there that, it's 7,666 of pyrexia. Pyrexia is just a fancy term for a fever.
Yeah.
So you had a fever. From what? From what? I thought this was supposed to, stop coof and things. And it's like, well, you've still got a fever. And the list goes on.
From the herpes. I've worked with a kid or whatever that actually said he got it from his girlfriend or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, how's that? And he's like, it hurts. It's this, that, and the other. And he was out on the floor or whatever working, and all of a sudden he's like, I don't feel right. And I'm like, what's wrong, bud? He's like, I gotta go sit down for a few minutes. I'm like, all right, go ahead. He goes and he sits down. I walk back by him a little bit later. I'm like, you all right? And he's just sitting there profusely sweating. He's like, this shit sucks, man. So, I mean, herpes is like a huge problem, even just to have it. So to actually be, to get it from something else, would be very, very upsetting.
Indeed.
I would rather have the fun getting it my damn self.
Oh my gosh.
Because obviously, he had to have been doing something to get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have that few minutes of fun to get it before actually just being jabbed to get it. I couldn't imagine either way. Ugh.
So if you go down to stroke on page 23, and again, and just think about all of these different things that they have split up. Again, you have musculoskeletal, you have neurological, you have autoimmune, and all of them are listed in the hundreds and thousands. And here I mean, again, hundreds and thousands. And of the 138, no, 139,888 that total that were reported, and they even list a higher number. They took out that subset of 4,086. And so the ones that we're listing here, and we're keep going through all of this stuff, cardiovascular, neurological, musculoskeletal, the pregnancy thing that we looked at before, all of that, that's all from this subset of what they deem to be relevant of 42,086.
So under the one before,
and it's
this,
just hundreds and hundreds of different types of things. Autoimmune, there's, I got coof again, and on and on. There's just different stuff.
So before the stroke one, that thrombotic events or whatever.
Yes.
In the most frequently reported relevant preferred terms or whatever, there's the blue toe syndrome of 2. Which I've heard an awful lot about this blue toe stuff or whatever.
There it is, blue toe. Yeah.
The very right. So they actually did have a couple of people complaining of blue toe syndrome, which really kind of goes along with that other whatever that I looked up or whatever. Because when you look at this, it says embolisms and pulmonary embolisms, which would be blood flow issues.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course thromboembolic events, that has to deal with veins.
Right.
So, yeah. But underneath of that is stroke, and there's 275 reported, of which 180 were medically confirmed, 95 non-medically confirmed. Which again, I mean, it's a stroke. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, again, right? Like they tell you on a sign.
Medically confirm that.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I keep looking at this, and it's like, how can you not medically confirm some of these things? I mean, it's just common sense. You can look at yourself in the mirror, but Pfizer doesn't really, they want to split the numbers down, as you were talking about, as much as they can, so it doesn't look as bad on paper as it might actually be, right? So they list 275, but there was only 180 that were medically confirmed. So F.D.A, please put this out for us to, for us to give to everybody, right? And then that way the government has to pay X amount in billions to, of course, Pfizer. But I mean, just hundreds and hundreds of these different cases. All these different cases of all these different things. 275 total, but they want to break it down and be like, well, it's not medically confirmed. They put out signs on the roadway. What is that acronym for if you have a stroke or something? And it's like droopy face or whatever if someone has a stroke, or slurred speech and this and that. And they have some sort of acronym. And they tell you on the side of the road how to identify a stroke. But yet Pfizer wants to sit here and say it's not medically confirmed, so we'll list it differently. It's like, how is that not medically confirmed? As you just said, it's like, it's pretty obvious if someone's probably having a stroke. I mean, even like, dare I say, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Nancy Stretch Pelosi, as some people call her. I mean, these people, sometimes you wonder, are they having a
The
mini
honorable.
stroke?
Huh.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. The honorable, more like the dishonorable sack of crap. Um, yeah, oh yeah, Hillary has a new course on how to deal with loss of, what is it? Deal with loss of like a goal or something. I forget. There's some term they use. Dealing with loss, dealing with the loss of something or another. Like, and of course, you know what I'm referring to. It's the presidency, right? And she's going over this master class.
Right.
You pay like hundreds of dollars to this thing and whatever. Anyways, there's her, and she's probably just having like a little mini stroke, and she's there like flopping her head around in front of people, and people sit there and they go, "Gee, is she having like a mini stroke? Is she having a full blown problem of that nature?" I mean, again, because the signs are obvious, they're in front of you, but yet, oh no, no, no. Let's break down the numbers here so it doesn't look as bad on paper. So if somebody reads it, it's like, oh, well, it was only 180 of that was medically confirmed. So let's keep trimming down the numbers as much as we can. You know, and just on and on with that crap throughout this entire thing, as we have read every single thing, medically confirmed, not medically confirmed, but the whole total that's reported is in the hundreds and the thousands. So, I mean, it just, and towards the end here of the listed stuff, you have vasculitic, what is it? Yeah, vasculitic events. Now, I would have expected this to be a lot higher. 32 cases of vasculitic events. But yet cardiac events was much more. So it's a little interesting to me. And they say that there's only one fatal outcome, not
And
resolved
because
with
it was
12.
such a low case count, whatever, they actually labeled all countries of incidents. The UK had 13, France had 4, Portugal, US, and Spain had 3 each. Cyprus, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Slovakia, and Costa Rica all had 1 each. So, though we didn't know all of the countries that they were testing out of, and the most of them up, because the last whatever were 19 different countries. Us and this one, they started labeling everything. So I mean, almost every single country in this world had some kind of an effect that came along with this occurring.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the end of that list. And I would say the big takeaways would be just, again, the total number of all of these. There's cardiovascular reported was 1,403. I mean, you have the pregnancies where there was 50, what did I say? 51, 53 spontaneous abortions out of 270. And then 238, they just stopped counting the rest of them. I mean, on and on with these numbers.
So this is where I was kind of.
And again, you scroll to the top and you look at that list, or excuse me, not the list. If you go to figure 1 again, and if you just look at that bar graph, serious and non-serious, I mean, you can just imagine over the course of 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, if they get a boosted jab or another boosted jab, and it's like you just keep going on and on. It's like, is that going to affect it more? Is it going to affect it less? I mean, and again, there's reported and it's non-serious, but could that turn into something more serious? Well, we don't know because they only did this for 3 months. And you have in total reported incidents 139,888 total that are reported. And they deemed 42,086 to be relevant. And there were over 1,000 people that are just dead. It's like, I mean, and again, you have the abortions, spontaneous abortions. There's 53 of those babies. They're just dead, and then they just stopped counting. This just comes from 3 months of study. That's it, just 3 months. There's no long term that you can look at from this. None. You can't. It's just common sense. You just can't. There's no way to. So that's this document. And it is quite revealing. And I believe this is why this company, Pfizer, didn't really want this out for people to see. But if it did get out for certain people to see, well, let's manipulate these a little bit so it doesn't look as bad, right?
Right.
We can trim off those numbers and split up those numbers into different categories and so forth, like they did with the spontaneous abortions. Like I said, that's just one of the most amazing things to me. Or not amazing, but you know what I'm saying. It's just it's shocking. There total 50 some spontaneous abortions, and then there's 238 of the pregnancies. We just don't even know what happened. We have no clue what happened. We have no clue. We have nothing here. I just stopped counting. And again, like I said, it's not like these people live in like the jungles of Vietnam. But even if they did, Pfizer's a multi-billion-dollar company. If they really wanted to know, they could, and they would. I mean, seriously, like they could tell if these people, even if they were in the Congolese wilderness in the middle of the Sahara, or in the middle of the Sahara, in the middle of the Arabian desert, and they're Aladdin with their magic lamp or whatever the hell. I mean, if they wanted to, they could fricking fly a helicopter in, drop some guy off, and ask them questions. I mean, they have millions and billions of dollars. You're telling me that you can't get a hold of anybody in the Western world that lives down the street? Oh, wait, no, sorry. It's just the great unknown. It's just, like 500 unknown here, 900 unknown there. Like, where'd they go? We don't know. They just stopped counting. But of that what's counted, it's a freaking ton of people that gave reports. And then you throw that VAERS system in, and the VAERS system, it was told by a Harvard study that there's only, it's like, what is it? Almost 100 times less of what's actually in the world in the VAERS system. What's actually going on in the world, it's like 100 times less that's reported on the VAERS system. I mean, so these numbers they just keep going and going. But this is just from 3 months. It's amazing. Over 25,000, almost 26,000 nervous system disorders, and there's 17,000 musculoskeletal, gastrointestinal was reported, 14,000. And they break it down and break it down and break it down some more. But even like we went over, even the numbers that they break down, it's still fairly significant. You're talking abortions, you're talking seizures, you're talking, these various serious conditions. But hey, everybody deserves a nice old jab up their candy rear, and that's just fine. That's just fine and dandy. We all just, just sit back and take it, America, and everybody else in the world. And that's what they want. And this is just, like I said, one of possibly other documents. They could have other things that could be released, because this is only, I mean, you're talking Pfizer. I mean, these people have probably a ton more information that may be still in existence. We just don't know. But this is just kind of like an overall, I mean, again, it's what it says, cumulative analysis. So there could be more to come. There could be other different things that they put out. But this is the cumulative analysis that they gave to the F.D.A. So, yeah. And of course, this, I think I can put this link in the chat. If I can find where, oh, freak, what did I do with that? What did I do with it? I have it downloaded, of course, but oh, shoot. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, That's all I got to say about that right now. I mean, unless do you have anything
No,
else to say about it?
I really don't. I was just kind of looking, I was scrolling through the last couple pages before it hits the appendix. And it basically doesn't, I mean, there wasn't a lot more information that was coming through. And it was just the medication errors that they were actually pointing out. The one that I found interesting was the fatal was 7, and then they put a little 3 at it, and it says all medication errors reported in these cases were assessed as non-serious occurrences with an unknown outcome based on the available information, including the causes of death. The relationship between the medication error and the death is weak. So, I mean, it's, to me,
So
it's kind of,
tying this. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, what it comes down to is it really sounds like they needed to do a lot more research on a lot more people instead of stopping where they did and come
Yeah,
up with better numbers, because I mean they're just, not that it's, it's very interesting, but at the same time it seems a little incomplete.
yeah, one might say that. But I mean, you can even tie this back to, I mean, again, what we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, which is the uh, Pfizer going after Mrs. Lee, right? It's Mrs. Lee.
Yeah, Lee. Mm-hmm.
Lee, yes. I mean, you tie it back to that. I mean, they went into that lawsuit and they were describing, you know, how they invested their money into this and they never really take anything from the government, and they were it's like they're making themselves sound very virtuous in this, and like, oh, we did this and oh, we did that and it was so great and it was so wonderful. It's like you can see why they're so concerned about maybe some more of this information getting out there, whether or not Mrs. Lee is some sort of a whistleblower, or if indeed she is just taking information, she's going to work for some other company.
So then I did scroll through the
You can see where
9.
they would have great concern for
You
this
know,
kind of stuff to really get out.
I'm going to take that down. Scrolled through the other 9 pages of appendix, so that way, if somebody decided they wanted to read through it, they could pause their stuff or whatever, and they could
Yeah.
actually read it. Being that neither one of us really has a link straight out to actually put in there for them to actually click on. Eventually, I can change the description. I could try finding those links and I can add them to the description or whatever in the future. That way it's there. Beside that,
Oh, wait, here it is. I just found that. I forgot. I had it in this one spot. I had it on a Discord, actually.
oh, oh yeah.
Now, this is
Sure.
from a site called the Richardson Post, but it's just it just gets you to download the same document.
Which,
I'm not giving any credibility to the Richardson Post by any means. I don't
being
know
that you're sitting
anything
in
about them.
Discord and you're looking at and you found that link, the other link should also be in there.
Oh, from Bloomberg?
Uh-huh.
I did post that in the chat. I
You
thought
did? Oh.
the Bloomberg one. Yeah. Now, it's not clickable. Like you can't just click on it. You have to copy and paste it yourself. But again, I'm still kind of new to this, so I don't really know how to make it a link.
I'm new to this stuff too, and when I'm looking at it, so basically what I did while you were talking on that, your in conclusion or whatever, I went and I clicked on and brought up YouTube, and interesting as that is this stream, though it's live and it actually is on YouTube, because I went and I actually dug around and I found it so that you could actually click on it still. did not show up in live feed at all, even from a straight home live where there's only 20 others that are up, whatever, doing something.
Oh my.
There's more people watching the inactive White House right now than there was watching us.
Oh, now come on. You know those are all Russian bots. Yeah.
I'm just like, really? I mean, it'd be nice if somebody joined us and watched us, but why don't you go ahead and I'll share.
Oh boy, we went 3 hours. Holy crap. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just so much information. And
there is.
I mean, like I said, it's just going over all of the numbers. It's fairly shocking. I mean, again, the the biggest thing to me was the spontaneous abortions. That was just insane.
I'll share
Oh
this one
yes.
here. Here's your website. It's americashirtsaretfirst.com.
Yes, and
I enjoy your website. I've visited it at least a couple times a day, whatever, just to see if you have anything new.
I am coming up with a couple of new ones. I will say because of the Maxwell trial, I'm trying to come up with a couple of new ones as it pertains to that. And I'll say the French, I think, had something right with guillotines and the elites, but you know, we'll just leave it at that for now. But
There's your Bill Gates.
oh yes, Bill Gates. Oh, it's great, isn't it gorgeous? Look at that. Look at that. I mean, do I need to say anything more? I mean, you know.
I sent you a file that actually gave you a centered logo, so it wasn't my logo wasn't off center on there.
Actually, it's more when I look at it from my my computer. It actually looks a little more centered than that.
It's not that it's there's nothing wrong with it really. It's because that is my logo.
Yep, cool frog. And then there's Good Logic over there. I've posted on Good Logic.
Yeah,
Posted some
absolutely.
discounts on Good Logic. I was doing the St. Kyle. And of course there is St. Kyle there.
This one
There's
here.
there's Saint, the saint of the year, St. Kyle. Being a saint, of course, as always.
It is a
Lovely
nice.
medical
It is a
bag.
decent website. Looks like you have some. Did you fix your? Was it the Odyssey one that was?
It was the locals that was
Oh, it
down.
was the
The
locals.
locals page you can still find. I haven't been able to post anything there because I don't know, it was something about the locals managed part of the locals managed page never comes up. But you can still find what I have posted. It's been almost, what is it, over a month now, I guess. And they have yet to get back to me, so I don't know what in the world what happened with that, if I have to make a new one or
Well, maybe Susan is watching and she can let them know.
yeah, she'll probably say, nay. Nay.
No, I don't like other platforms. Follow us only.
Yeah.
But
Follow the
yet,
Google
but yet
approved.
nobody's actually watching us. So I mean, it is what it is. We'll get there someday.
Yeah, who knows? They'll probably watch, maybe they'll watch a replay of this.
Me myself, you can follow me almost anywhere with this name of Cool Frog. That's KOOLFROGG. I do have a link tree that has all of that tied to it. Otherwise, this stream, if it gets taken down off of YouTube, will be on Odyssey within the next day or two. It does take a little bit of time for it to upload, especially it being over the almost 3.5 hours that we've been on here. Thanks again. Stay with me. Thanks again. Again, don't forget to visit his website, americashirtsaretfirst.com.
AmericasShirtsAreFirst.com. Get yourself a fantastic America themed t-shirt, freedom themed t-shirt. And 1776 will beat 1984. That I can tell you.
Thanks again, folks. Don't forget to click the subscribe and like buttons, and you'll see us come soon. I'm on. I want to try doing a show every night, midnight Central Time. That'd be 1 o'clock East Coast. Thanks again.